Chapter 26. Ding. Yanhuang Scientific Research Scientist System, the first rocket returns successfully. Ding. The rocket landed successfully. Yanhuang Technology System rewards are being distributed. When Zhang Chen heard the reward information, he was shocked. He still remembered the message he got after the system was bound. Use technology to gain true net worth, which can then be converted into technology points. After that, he can redeem any item in the system through technology points, or even participate in a lottery. Thinking of this, he couldn't help rubbing his hands. I couldn't help but look forward to it. The next second, the system and reward information suddenly flooded into his mind. Congratulations to the host, the reward has been successfully posted to the backpack, please check it. The words fell. Zhang Chen was just stunned at first. Is that all? No way. Shouldn't he report to me what rewards I received? So sloppy? After waiting for more than 10 seconds, I found that the system was not ready to continue reading. He frowned helplessly, opened the backpack. At this time, in the system backpack, Zhang Chen couldn't help but widen his eyes when he saw his reward. Shock value 500 from Uchiha. Shock value 500 from Zhang Tianfeng. Shock value from Wang Qiqui, 800. Shock value 2000 from Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen. Shock value from Zhao Weiguo, 3000. Shock value from Longhua 2760. Looking at the detailed bill that was almost endless, Zhang Chen, who had been influenced by the technology system and had seen a lot of the world, I couldn't help but be stunned at this moment. This is just a rocket incident, but it shocked so many people? Oh my god. The detailed bill in front of him could slide down according to Zhang Chen's thoughts. He even saw the names of many other countries on it and nodded. That's really good. Just hit the bottom. Once this command is issued, the details scrolled directly to the end. First order, liquid nitrogen and methane rocket, total shock value, 9,386,000. 1, 10, 100. After seeing this long list of numbers, if we ignore the previous introduction, Zhang Chen was even surprised because the phone number in front of him was a landline phone number. For a moment, I couldn't help but gasp. Hiss, 9,386,000? I didn't expect such a fruitful result in my first battle. Consider that within the system, the exchange ratio between technology points and shock points is 1:1000. Zhang Chen was a little proud of his achievements. However, this sense of pride gradually disappeared after he saw the shock value automatically converted into 9386 technology points. Ding dong. Total balance of host technology points, 9388. Enhanced Technology Inventor Level 2. Upgrade reward package will be issued in 24 hours, please check it. After hearing this reminder, Zhang Chen forgot that he also had an upgrade package. Not bad, really good. Leave the technology point balance page, the translucent screen began to flash with another notification. Shown above is the rocket order demand of the Long Science and Technology Institute. There is only a simple word "same" marked on it, and there is no other unnecessary content, not even just a symbol. I never thought that the system can now be connected to my orders on Xianyu. Then I don't have to check it myself anymore? Will the system automatically send me an order notification? Plus after the order is completed, the system will also directly issue rewards to me, and automatically convert them into technology points in the end. In addition, the company now has its own awakened housekeeper assistant 01, I don't have to worry about anything. Isn't it obvious that they want to train me to be a hands-off boss? Zhang Chen looked at the system page in front of him and sighed sincerely. Just as I was about to put the phone aside, a new message suddenly popped up at the top. Comrade Zhang Chen, these two are the material suppliers I recommend to you. I know them well, so you can rest assured to cooperate with me. Material supplier? When doing business related to technology, material suppliers are indeed indispensable to them. Zhang Chen was just confused. Why would someone recommend this to him out of nowhere? After exiting the chat box, he raised his eyes and looked at the note location. Su Zheng. His eyebrows were frivolous, and I suddenly understood what I had been confused about. 01, help me investigate the background of these two material suppliers. It's not that Zhang Chen doesn't trust Su Zheng, this is a necessary process in his process of selecting partners. Also, he wants to expand the technology company his father left him. To redeem technology points for the Yanhuang Scientific Research Scientist System, you must complete the corresponding order-taking process in the form of an order. Yes. Mr. Zhang. 01 AFT are receiving the order, he sat directly on the sofa opposite Zhang Chen. With his head slightly lowered, his eyes occasionally flashed with an icy blue light. Seeing this, Zhang Chen was stunned for just a second before he reacted immediately. 2 minutes later, Mr. Zhang, the credibility and other guarantees of these two material suppliers are all good, you can rest assured to cooperate with us. This answer was within Zhang Chen's expectations. He leaned back, stood up, picked up his coat and walked outside. 01, if there are any customers, please entertain them for me first. Yes. Mr. Zhang. Walking on Pengcheng Street, the lively atmosphere was overwhelming. After his parents passed away, he seemed to have forgotten that, apart from doing research, he used to like hanging out like this. Following the memories of the past, Zhang Chen stopped at a station without noticing, and looked around, only to see that everyone waiting for the bus had their heads lowered. Seems to be looking at something. Here it comes. This Wan-san actually dares to do this. That's right, drinking urine while standing upside down. Wow, the difficulty index deserves at least 5 stars. I suddenly feel a little worried. I don't know who in the crowd said this. The other people around immediately raised their eyes and looked over. Why should we pity such a person? Didn't you see him arrogantly saying on the internet that our reusable rocket was what it looked like when it was a model? Oh my god, don't even mention how infuriating it is. That's right, if you want me to see it, you deserve it. A person should at least pay the price for his bad mouth. Zhang Chen listened to their conversation and couldn't help but wonder if the reusable rocket they were talking about was his first order. I really want to know which hero of our dragon country made this rocket. It's exactly like this. Following the source of the voice, Zhang Chen saw the old man who was speaking giving him a thumbs up. There was a look of pride on his face. Suddenly, I don't know what it was, but it hit his heart hard. An indescribable feeling spread from my heart. Yes, to be honest, I am just an aerospace enthusiast. The person who can design this rocket must be a genius. Amidst the praises, Zhang Chen successfully squeezed onto the bus. Chapter 27. Welcome passengers to take bus 285, next stop is Lonk University. He woke up unexpectedly after getting on the bus. This familiar environment, this familiar broadcast voice. Zhang Chen shook his head helplessly and found an empty seat near the corner and sat down. Muttering to himself, why did you get on this bus? Looking at the pedestrians coming and going outside the window, many of them are students from Lonk University riding bicycles in groups. He raised his wrist to check the time. That's all, now that everyone is out, let's go back and take a look. I don't know how Mr. Gong is doing. Zhang Chen leaned his head against the window, and 01's voice came to his mind. Mr. Zhang, 01 has now detected that someone is trying to obtain your information. Do you want 01 to encrypt your private information? The words fell. No need, let them investigate. Zhang Chen responded very straightforwardly. I couldn't help but raise a bitter smile at the corner of my mouth. I am penniless and I am the only one left. Why should I be afraid of an investigation? Could it be possible that someone would attack an orphan like me who just graduated? Okay, 01 received. After the other party responded, Zhang Chen clearly felt that the connection between the two parties was interrupted. For a moment, he also wondered how 01 knew this. But after thinking about it, I also understood instantly that he was, after all, a butler assistant that surpassed modern technology. Its function is certainly superior to the entire Blue Star's technological network. Whatever information you want, it can be easily obtained. Think for a moment, I don't know what Zhang Chen thought of, but he actually took the initiative to contact 01. No country other than Dragon Nation is allowed to investigate, yes. Office of the President of Lonk Institute. Su Zheng was standing in front of his desk, pacing anxiously. From time to time, his eyes would look towards the door, as if he was waiting for some important news. Half an hour ago. He had just returned from Zhang Chen's technology company when he received a call from his leader. Afterwards, he reported the content of his private conversation with Zhang Chen to Long Hua. I only know that the other side was silent for a long time. Only then did he convey to him that he wanted to get all the information about Zhang Chen as soon as possible. Besides, he also hoped to obtain relevant confidential interviews and investigations from Zhang Chen's former relatives and friends. No matter how small the task. He has already assigned the confidential investigation. As for the basic investigation on Zhang Chen, he simply handed it over to his assistant. When he thought of the contact information of the two material suppliers that he had already sent to Zhang Chen, Su Zheng now feels somewhat regretful. If he had known this would happen, he should have waited until the investigation was over before doing it. If there is something wrong with this kid, wouldn't that be a big mistake? The material supplier recommended by Su Zheng to Zhang Chen is a reliable merchant who has been supplying materials to Lonk Institute for decades. A typical leader in the red industry. Now the information has leaked out. Zhang Chen, you must stand up for me. Don't do anything shameful. His fists hanging at both sides of his body were clenched tightly. God knows what kind of mental pressure Su Zheng is under right now. Boom boom boom. Enter. Su Zheng rushed to the door in one leap. Twist the handle yourself. The moment the door opened and I saw the assistant, I felt relieved. But it was only a second before it was brought up again. He looked at his assistant nervously. How is it? Are the results of the investigation satisfactory? When saying this, Su Zheng himself didn't even notice that there was a slight tremor in his voice. The assistant on the opposite side said nothing, his lips were tightly pursed, and the expression on his face was even more unpredictable. Seeing this, Su Zheng felt his heart skip a beat. What? What do you mean? Did it turn out badly? Dean, you should take a look at it yourself. After all, I have never opened the result. The assistant did not say the following sentence. She had no idea that her words had the power to directly break down Su Zheng's psychological defenses. Su Zheng lowered his eyes and took the folder from his assistant, his hands shaking. After taking a deep breath, I finally found my voice. You go out first. Let me digest this information slowly. When the assistant took the file bag, he didn't realize how much it was. Now it's in my hands, I subconsciously felt the thickness of the file bag. He muttered, there are so many. This was obviously not what he expected. Sitting back at the desk, be mentally prepared before slowly opening it to check. He pulled out the information inside. The first thing that caught his eye was a certificate of outstanding graduation from Lonq University. There is also a shining first prize medal. Longwo University Student Independent Scientific Research Creation Award. Vague memories gradually emerged, and Su Zheng remembered that this event was planned to be jointly sponsored by Lonq Academy and Lonq University. He was not there at the time, so he handed over full responsibility to Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen. That competition was the one that all the universities in Dragon Country looked forward to the most. Although he was not there, I had already heard from Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen that there were many talented people in the major scientific research project competition. If only we could bring 2 of the first and second prize winners into the Dragon Science Academy. Lonq Institute will certainly be more powerful. He did remember that the second prize winner seemed to be in the outer courtyard of Lonq College 2 years ago, and as for the first prize winner, he didn't see anyone either. Naturally, I didn't ask any further questions. But now I think, it was Zhang Chen? He lowered his gaze and reached out to flip through other information. Zhang Chen has certificates for outstanding students at all stages, practical competitions, etc. Until finally I saw a page of proof. Su Zheng was stunned. The bright and large characters made him speechless. It was the death certificate of his parents. Looking down, the date is still the first few months of this year. It reminds me of a technology company that looks shabby and even bankrupt both from the outside and inside. This made him think of a possibility. From now on, those competition medals and certificates. According to Zhang Chen's grades, as long as he is willing, he will definitely be able to enter the Dragon Science Academy. But in the end it failed. The final reason was that Su Zheng could not think of any other reason except his parents' last wish. Then he turned around to look at Zhang Chen's current situation. He was either being asked to pay his debts or on his way to be asked to pay his debts. How did he get by during this period? Suddenly, Su Zheng hated himself. Even a second before learning his file information, they themselves doubted him and even resented him for not being able to hand over the relevant technology of liquid nitrogen and methane rockets to the country. FK. Su Zheng. You are not a human being. He is still a child. If he didn't have the 2 million order for the liquid nitrogen methane rocket, he would not be able to pay off his debts. It is very likely that you will face a life of hunger and satiety. How could you bear it? Chapter 28. I actually misunderstood Zhang Chen before. When he thought of this, Su Zheng's hands began to tremble and he wished he could slap himself a few times on the spot. His breathing suddenly became intense. Such a genius should not be treated unfairly. Suddenly, the small and messy warehouse of Zhang Chen Technology Company appeared in his mind. As if he had made up his mind. Su Zheng placed the archived documents on the table. He raised his voice and shouted outside, arrange for the core research team of the Lonq Institute headquarters to hold a meeting immediately. The gate of Lonq University at that time. Nota e dust fee, before he could even step in, a uniformed security guard raised his hand to stop him. Leisurely hummed, go away, the school does not allow members of the public to enter. Sir, I am. Zhang Chen was about to explain to the other party, but before he could open his mouth, the old man interrupted him. You are an outstanding graduate of Lonq University? Oh, your excuses are all outdated. Can you get a fresh one? As he spoke, the security guard knocked on the retractable door with a small stick in his hand, and then simply sat down on the bench he had placed at the door. Let me do the math. A few days ago, a group of people said the same thing. Half a month ago, 3 colorful heads came up to me and said the same thing. Yes. When did this situation start? Let me think about it, old man. The security guard tilted his head slightly, his eyes looking somewhere unknown, and one hand was stroking his chin. Scratched his eyebrow. Suddenly, I shuddered. He clapped his hands. It's a boy named Huang Tian. Tisk tisk, you said he looks like a good boy, why does he have to go to someone else's school? Is there anything in school that he misses? I don't understand. The security guard shook his head and told himself not to think about it anymore. So, don't bother with me here. I won't let you in. Looking at Zhang Chen in front of him, the security guard crossed his legs. Then he rolled up his own cigarette. Took a deep breath. The smoke ring slowly rose up. The face of Zhang Chen was blurred. As for Zhang Chen on the other side, when he heard the name Huang Tian, suddenly I felt a little dazed. He didn't remember a word of what the security guard said later. His mouth moved slightly, and he said, Huang Tian. Memories of the dead began to attack his brain. Huang Tian, a Euro who was called the eternal runner-up by his classmates. Especially in that science and technology competition, he plagiarized his original idea. If he hadn't discovered it in time, he would have probably been bitten back on the spot. Zhang Chen's expression suddenly became a little unnatural. My body was a little dazed. Boy, are you Zhang Chen? Why are you here? A slightly old yet familiar voice came from behind. The former turned around subconsciously, hey, it really is Zhang Chen. Pop. The man immediately let go of the bicycle and stretched out his hands to hold Zhang Chen's arms. Looking him up and down. Mr. Peng. As I looked at her, tears welled up in my eyes. At this moment, it was a touching scene of old friends gathering together, but in the next moment, Mr. Peng raised his palm. He hit Zhang Chen's arm without any mercy. You little brat, you haven't completely forgotten me, an old man, and you still remember to come back to see me? I thought the next time I saw you, we would be separated forever. Zhang Chen did not fight back, with a silly smile on his face, silently enduring Peng Lao's emotions. The security guard standing by saw the interaction between the two of them. He stood up slowly and was stunned. No, Mr. Peng, do you know him? Is he really a graduate of this school? Peng Lao nodded. She raised her hand and simply wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. After calming herself down, she spoke to the security guard. Yes, he was the best one the year before last. Lao Wang, I'm taking it in. If anyone in the school holds you responsible, I'll take responsibility for it for you. Mr. Peng, what are you talking about? Since he is your guarantor, I am naturally relieved. The security guard took out a remote control and pressed it. Watching the telescopic door open little by little, Zhang Chen took the initiative to pick up Peng Lao's bicycle and kept up with his pace. Along the way, Elder Peng was introducing to Zhang Chen the changes that had taken place in Lonk University. From green belts to various trees, and then to teaching buildings. He would also say a few words from time to time to give Mr. Peng some feedback. After the atmosphere between the two of them gradually calmed down, Zhang Chen dared to ask, Mr. Peng, how have you been these past 2 years? As soon as the words fell, he clearly felt that the old man who was walking in front of him stopped in his tracks, sighed deeply. Looking back at Zhang Chen, his eyes were full of regret. How's the old man doing? He's doing fine. No need to worry. But it's a pity for you. If you had been able to persist, you would have been a key training target of the Dragon Science Academy. Mr. Peng, I have never regretted any decision I made. Hearing this, old Peng looked at Zhang Chen with a look of disappointment. He raised his hand and nodded. But he didn't know what to say, so he turned around and left with his hands behind his back. Zhang Chen was not worried about the other party getting angry, and he made progress following behind. The two of them entered the library one after the other. The students inside almost filled all the study spaces in the library. The two of them automatically quieted down. As the librarian of Lonk University, Mr. Peng went straight back to his workstation after entering. As for Zhang Chen, he casually pulled over a chair and sat next to him without caring about old Peng's anger. He didn't say anything, just sat there quietly, maybe for a long time. Zhang Chen stood up and took out a book to read. During the whole process, Mr. Peng, who was wearing a magnifying glass, was unaware that he was always watching him with his peripheral vision. This atmosphere continued until 7 o'clock in the evening, when he and Mr. Peng followed the tide of students to the cafeteria. You haven't told me yet, how have you been doing recently? I don't know how long Peng Lao had been holding back these words on the first floor. After all, when Zhang Chen was in school, his condition was not like it is now. If he had not experienced some unforgettable changes, Mr. Peng could not think of anything else. Sensing Mr. Peng's gaze, Zhang Chen smiled bitterly. What else can I do? I just took over my father's company not long ago. You know, my father and mother have always been keen on the technological research of moon migration. In front of Elder Peng, Zhang Chen almost took off his disguise of strength, which allowed the other party to see his vulnerability at a glance. Chapter 29. No. Something's wrong with you. You shouldn't be like this. Did something happen at home? What's wrong with him now? What happened? Knowing that he was innocent, he absolutely did not believe that Zhang Chen's father would hand over the technology company that he valued as his life to Zhang Chen. A possibility suddenly came to my mind. Mr. Peng's heart trembled, not daring to think too deeply about it. He just quietly watched Zhang Chen's steps getting slower and slower. After a long silence, he didn't say a word. Old Peng frowned and shook his head. Forget it, forget it. When you are willing to talk, just tell me, this old man. Let's go eat something first. I heard there seems to be something exciting in the cafeteria tonight. Lively? Speaking of excitement, Zhang Chen couldn't help but think of one. While on the bus, he also heard that there would be a very exciting live broadcast tonight. I don't know if it's one. Everyone, please sit down. Students who are eating in front, please don't stand up. We can't see the screen. That's right. Hurry and sit down, the live broadcast is about to start. After preparing their meal, Zhang Chen and Peng Lao found a seat where they could see the screen clearly. It started. I don't know who in the crowd said this. In the cafeteria, all the students of Lonk University looked over there. A bearded man appeared on the screen, and the live broadcast background was a small underground rental house. And it doesn't look very clean. When did students from Lonk University become interested in this? Zhang Chen frowned in confusion and stuffed a mouthful of rice into his mouth. As for Mr. Peng, he didn't even turn his head, but turned away slightly with his bowl in hand. You don't understand this, do you? By the way, have you been paying attention to the internet recently? I heard that Pengcheng Aerospace University launched a rocket, and it was a recyclable liquid nitrogen and methane-powered rocket. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I'd say today's young people are truly amazing. It's a pity that I tried to go in today and was kicked out. The security guards at Pengcheng Aerospace University are not as reasonable as the security guards at Lonk University. This netizen named Wan San made a bet with Xiao Zuj that the rocket was a model. Now that he has lost, he has to fulfill his promise. Just wait and see, it's bound to be exciting. Old Peng did not notice the surprise on Zhang Chen's face. In order to see more clearly, he turned around. Big screen on the wall. Zhang Chen couldn't help but be curious and looked over. I saw that Wan San had a good stand and stepped back a few steps. He leaned against the wall and glanced to the side, not knowing what he was looking at. Family, I made a bet with Xiao Zuj before, and I admit that I lost. That was indeed a real rocket. Today, I am the one who won. I am here. Drink urine while standing upside down. Once these words came out, the netizens in the live broadcast room were immediately excited. Oh my god. I didn't expect this kid to be serious about this. I take back my previous disparagement of him online. I admire him for daring to appear here now. After seeing this sentence, many netizens agreed with it. After all, a few days ago, they thought that this netizen named Wan-san was going to cheat. Now look, it seemed that it no longer mattered whether he could complete the handstand and drink urine. But more netizens are still making a fuss under the barrage. Regardless of whether the live broadcast can go on or not, they will always have fun watching it. On the other side, many netizens have already prepared their own screen recording equipment, waiting for Wansan to start showing. They firmly believe that as long as they can get a video of someone drinking urine while standing upside down. After that, with the corresponding text and audio, their names will be on the hot lists of major platforms. Let's get started. It's the anchor, stop wasting time, we are all waiting. The sensation among netizens immediately attracted a large amount of traffic to Wansan's account, and countless netizens began to pay attention to this matter. His live broadcast became popular in a short period of time. Wansan looked at the netizens cheering on the screen, his anger was somewhat out of control, and even his facial muscles began to tremble at this moment. But due to my own concerns, this happened in public. I had to suppress my anger and endure it. He then sent a sneering expression. Don't worry, I'll start the show now. But before that, I will invite my assistant to help. As soon as this was said, many netizens in the live broadcast room immediately began to refute. What? Is it possible that what you said about drinking urine while standing upside down is different from what I said about drinking urine while standing upside down? Aren't you self-sufficient, puff? Once these words came out, the students of Lonk University couldn't hold back for a moment and spat out the food in their mouths tacitly. After realizing their own mistakes, after tidying up the desk, everyone fell silent. Silently watching the live video in front of you. In the audience, Mr. Peng's voice suddenly rang out, I wonder if the person who built that rocket is watching the live broadcast right now. Zhang Jin. After hearing this, the mouthful of rice he had just picked up with his chopsticks fell back into the bowl. Mouth opened, but when he saw how seriously these people were watching the video, he forced himself to hold it back. Live video screen, the man named Wansan then leaned against the wall and stood upside down. A person walked out from behind the camera. From the perspective of netizens, they only saw him holding a transparent pot in his hand. The liquid inside is a rich yellow color. Facing the camera, Wansan said, Family, let's start now. Maybe it's because it's upside down. He was trembling a little when he spoke. The assistant poured some into his mouth. Zhang Chen also put down his bowl and chopsticks at this time and started reading carefully. But his attention was all on the barge in the corner. He frowned and looked at it. It seems that these netizens are not very satisfied with this kind of live broadcast. A few words in his ear made Mr. Peng turn around and look at him. This is the driving force of the internet. Do you think they would dare to say this in real life? Definitely not. Zhang Chen shook his head. But if they send these words, won't the live broadcast be shut down? Zhang Chen's words had just fallen. The screen in front of me turned pitch black. Everyone hasn't even reacted yet. Then Zhang Chen said, Why is there so much concern about this? Isn't it just building a rocket? Although the sound is not loud, it is at the same time. Swish. All eyes in the cafeteria turned towards Zhang Chen and Old Peng. The voices of discussion rose and fell. Who is this guy? Who gave him the courage? Does he know what he is talking about? Chapter 30. Zhang Chen naturally did not expect that his words could attract so many people's attention. Even if I force myself not to raise my head at this moment, he could also feel the hostile gazes directed at him. Raise your hand and pick up the sour plum soup, he drank a few sips to cover up. Pretending to be calm. What he didn't know was that during the past few days, the issue of the liquid nitrogen methane rocket launch has continued to ferment. The students of Lonk University can be said to have been deeply impressed by the person behind the development of the liquid nitrogen and methane rocket. Now I hear a person who looks so ordinary and unknown sitting here and making sarcastic remarks. The arrogance in their hearts is getting stronger and stronger. Some of them even threw away their jobs. He took a few steps and arrived in front of Zhang Chen. It may also be due to temper. They ignored Elder Peng who was standing opposite them with his back to Zhang Chen. Boy, you don't look like a student of our Lonk University. As they spoke, several classmates looked Zhang Chen up and down. There was no sign of the Lonk University badge hanging on Zhang Chen's chest or arm. Did you see that he was wearing the school uniform of Lonk University? The smile on his lips grew wider. You didn't sneak in, did you? Before you came in, did you know that this was Lonk University? Of course. Zhang Chen took a sip, and the calmness in his eyes directly irritated the two students who came forward to question him. The halo bestowed upon them by Lonk University is too heavy. In addition to being able to focus on research in a well-resourced school, it seems that even the most basic ability to distinguish is lacking. Ah. It seems that Wansan's live broadcast room was terminated because of a report of violations. A female classmate not far away screamed in surprise. The eyes of the students around her were focused on her for a short while. Then he returned to Zhang Chen. Boy, you didn't do this, did you? Once these words came out, not to mention Zhang Chen, even Old Peng, who was sitting in the front and had no intention of intervening in this matter, couldn't help but frown. I started to complain about these guys in my heart. One by one, you are stuck in school, your brains have become stupid, right? If Zhang Chen could hear what Elder Pang was saying, I will definitely give a thumbs up to show my approval. Listening to the endless discussions around me, even if I am small, I am suppressed by them. It did not escape Zhang Chen's ears and was heard completely. The next second, he calmly put down the bowl and chopsticks in his hands. Finally, I took a sip of the sour plum soup, and it dried up completely. He picked up a tissue and wiped his mouth lightly. Zhang Chen then began to look them in the face. Yu Ran introduced herself. Hello, fellow students. I am a graduate of Lonk University 2 years ago. My name is Zhang Chen. Today I am here. I don't care who you are, but you have to apologize to the god who made the liquid nitrogen and methane rocket. Zhang Chen had only said half of his words. Before he could finish his words, he was immediately seated next to him. The student who looked like a gangster interrupted. He even said it very arrogantly. Many students around echoed him. Yes. That's right. You must apologize. Looking at the somewhat aggressive, primary school student in front of him, Zhang Chen's mouth twitched a little. Does this mean I want to apologize to myself? There is no reason, I haven't heard of it. I really haven't heard of it. That's enough. Mr. Pang turned around at some point, his eyes sharp as knives. It cut inch by inch towards the students who were making a fuss around it. He scolded with a stern face. I invited him back. What's the matter? Do you all have objections? I was the one who let him in. Do you want to kick me out as well? Hearing the sound, Zhang Chen also looked over. At this moment, even though Mr. Pang was sitting at the dinner table, he still looked intimidating without even getting angry. Even his aura cannot be ignored. Everyone in Lonk University knows that although Mr. Pang is just a library administrator now and looks ordinary, but the identity is not simple at all. Many students saw with their own eyes that Mr. Pang had close contact with the bigwigs of Lonk College, the officers who wore military uniforms and had medals on their chests. Although he is not very prominent, he is definitely a character. Thinking of this, those who were still making a fuss fell silent instantly. He stood up and slowly took a few steps back. There was also a flattering smile on his face. What are you talking about, Mr. Pang? We are. Unable to make the circle come back for a while, the two looked to the classmates around them for help. The female classmate who said that Wansan's live broadcast was reported stepped forward. Smiling explanation, Mr. Pang, you should know the importance of liquid nitrogen methane rockets. Students still remember that you were also very excited at that time. But when it came to this, senior brother's mouth, it sounded like it was a trivial matter and the students were just angry. Please don't get angry. The students have no ill intentions and are not targeting you. We just want to seek justice. Zhang Chen looked at the girl in front of him, speaking softly but eloquently. He spoke with reason and evidence, and was not affected by the atmosphere at all. Similarly, he also felt the change in the air pressure around Mr. Pang, and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Then I heard a helpless sigh beside my ear. This is no small matter now. You have done scientific research before, so you should know that no matter in the past, present, or future, if we can achieve a breakthrough in liquid nitrogen methane rocket technology, it will be extremely shocking to Dragon Country and the world. With Mr. Pang's words, the students seemed to have found a backbone. His eyes were full of pride. Seeing the situation in front of him, Zhang Chen was stunned at first, but then he smiled faintly. Everyone here can make a rocket, but if you ask me to apologize, Zhang Chen pursed his lips and shook his head. How could I possibly apologize to myself? After seeing Zhang Chen's attitude, the students, whose emotions had calmed down, frowned again. But this time, he looked at Pang Lao, the latter's expression gradually became solemn. There was worry in his brows as he looked at Zhang Chen. Someone in the crowd raised his voice and said something. Since anyone can do it, then I, Wang Ming, would like to challenge this outstanding and proud graduate brother. Let's compete in making rocket models for a month. Are you willing to accept the challenge? Once these words came out, this undoubtedly pushed the atmosphere to a climax, with shouts of accept the challenge. It was so loud that it seemed to break through the sky, and there was even a sense that the ceiling of the cafeteria was about to be overturned in the next second. As for Mr. Pang, he really didn't expect that things would turn out like this just because he was having a meal and watching a live broadcast. He opened his mouth and was about to say something, but Zhang Chen said before him, sure. Chapter 31. Zhang Chen spoke in a low voice, although his voice was not too loud. But he was full of confidence, which was enough for the students present to hear clearly. The people at the scene could actually hear a hint of carelessness in the voice. It seemed that this matter was not a difficult thing for him. Even Pang Lao, who was originally with him, looked more and more surprised at this moment. Especially when looking at the little guy in front of him who used to always hang out in the library and have academic exchanges with him from time to time. Now it gave him a very strange feeling. Suddenly, I couldn't understand him anymore. The students from Lonk University around him were a little surprised to hear Zhang Chen agreed so readily. Wang Ming, who challenged Zhang Chen, smiled and pulled the corners of his mouth. How about this, senior brother? I won't take advantage of you. How about you pick 5 of us to form a team with you, and then compete with me in a month? As students of scientific research, they naturally know the difficulty of building a rocket. It is absolutely impossible for one person to build a rocket within a month, even if it is a rocket model. Let him choose. He's already graduated 2 years ago, and it doesn't look like he's continuing his studies. Building a rocket model? Do you think he can still do it? I think it's uncertain. Although everyone has their own specialties, they still need to be diligent all the time. Really? In that case, I don't want to join his team. I want to join Wang Ming. Me too. All I could hear was the sound of many students talking in low voices. Zhang Chen was not annoyed after hearing this. It's like I didn't hear it. His eyes flickered towards the students standing in front of him. Without saying much, he just looked at me. He saw several people start to avoid looking at him. Some even took a few steps back. Seeing this, Pang Lao frowned. Knowing that the current situation is not good for Zhang Chen. I also know that students from Lonq University are always very consistent. What I say will never be easily changed before a result is obtained. Worried that he would have to fight alone, he risked his reputation and was about to assign a few students to Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen said softly with a smile, "There's no need to form a team. I'm outside the school and it's hard for me to contact you. I'll just form my own team. Also, this month is too long. It takes a month for students at Lonq University to make a rocket model. If this gets out, it will be really embarrassing. And I also know that the rocket launched 2 days ago was from Pengcheng Aerospace University. Lonq University, can't give in, right?" More and more people gathered around the cafeteria. Especially after the challenge, even the few class teachers who had not yet left the school pushed up their glasses and walked towards them. Zhang Ye was tall, and even from a distance he could see Zhang Chen inside. "Hey, Lao Zhang, isn't that Zhang Chen, the graduate you taught? Why is he back?" Hearing the voice, Zhang Ye narrowed his shrewd eyes and moved closer. "What's up?" Seeing Elder Pang there too, he nodded slightly. "Elder Pang." The latter nodded. "Director? Why are you here?" Wang Ming looked over in surprise. As for Zhang Chen, he recognized Zhang Ye the moment he appeared. With a smile on his face and without losing respect, he said, "Director Zhang, long time no see, my student Zhang Chen is back." Zhang Ye raised his hand and nodded without saying anything. After learning the general situation from several students around him, he smiled. "I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. Zhang Chen, Wang Ming, both of you are my students. You two want to compete? Not bad, I can be a witness for you. A month is indeed a bit long. How about 20 days? I think it's okay." Mr. Pang also echoed. There was a hint of shrewdness in his slightly cloudy eyes as he looked at the Lonq student in front of him. These kids need some stimulation to realize their potential. Although Pengcheng Aerospace University is known as the cradle of aerospace technology, Lonq University was once far more glorious than it. His. When these words came out, the people around couldn't help but gasp. 20 days? That's right. As for the specifications, I won't ask for them. It's boring to have so many rules and regulations. After he finished speaking, Zhang Chen lowered his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. When Mr. Pang saw his appearance, he thought that he was retreating. He raised his hand and patted Zhang Chen on the shoulder, and he came back to his senses. Buzz buzz buzz. The sound of the vibrating cell phone in his pocket broke the quiet atmosphere. "Hello, 01. Boss Zhang, someone came to our company." He said his name is Mo Cheng, and he was with Zhang Tianfang and Lu Xia. He knew Lu Xia and Zhang Tianfang, the teacher and president of Pengcheng Aerospace University. Having experienced the rocket launching and recovery before, it's no surprise that they came to us. "Okay, I'll be back soon. You should take care of the customers first." Hang up the phone, Zhang Chen looked at his former class teacher Zhang Ye, Wang Ming and others with a serious expression. "I have something to deal with at the company, so I won't stay any longer." "What? Going back now, are you going to give up our challenge?" Wang Ming looked at his direct senior brother in name only with a half smile, crossed his arms over his chest, and said teasingly. Zhang Chen frowned and turned his head. "Wang Ming, right? I will be at Lonq University on time in 20 days. After that, he nodded to the instructors and Mr. Pang, then stepped out. Arrived at the gate. Zhang Chen looked left and right, and was just worrying about how to get back. A voice called out from behind, "Wait for me, I'll go back with you." Mr. Pang rode his bicycle and chased over here. Just as he was about to hit Zhang Chen, he slammed on the brakes and stopped. Zhang Chen called just now, and he was closest to him. Others didn't hear it, but he heard it clearly. That old guy Mo Cheng went to Zhang Chen's company. He didn't care about others, but Mo Cheng was his longtime rival. Normally, he rarely went out of the house, let alone to the technology company. It must be bad news for him to go to Zhang Chen's company. Zhang Chen's father, Zhang Xianxi, was his most proud disciple at the time, and he would never allow his disciple's son to be exploited. However, Zhang Chen had no idea what he was planning. "Mr. Pang? You want to come back with me?" "Yes, come on up, I'll take you to your father's, your company in a little while." Seeing Mr. Pang's kind face, Zhang Chen couldn't help but choke up, and his eyes hidden in the darkness felt a little sour. "Calm down, take the handlebars quietly, how can I let you give me a ride?" "Mr. Pang, you are old, I'd better let you take me." Chapter 32. Pengcheng North District. Inside an office building. When Zhang Chen drove Mr. Pang back downstairs, the white-collar workers who were working overtime were leaving the office building. Watching them go to work in high spirits in the morning and leave exhausted and decadent at night, he couldn't help but shook his head. When life is good, you should enjoy it to the fullest. I really don't know what they are thinking. Isn't it enough to go to get off work and get off work on time? Why do they have to work overtime? Just finished complaining, a light pat behind him. He subconsciously covered the back of his head. Mr. Peng, why do you still do this? I am not a child anymore. Old Peng smiled with his eyes narrowed, and stroked his air beard with his hand. Things change. In the next 20 days, I believe you will have a worse time than them. Zhang Chen thought to himself, you are wrong, I can finish it in 2 days, why would I need 20 days? Let's go, I want to see what Jianglin technology is like now. Hearing this, Zhang Chen's eyes, which had been sparkling, dimmed in an instant. He murmured, Jianglin technology. Memories come to mind, Dad, why did our company go to Jianglin technology? There is no one like Jianglin in our family. The tall and majestic figure in the memory raised his hand and rubbed Zhang Chen's furry head. Because my mother's last name is Lin, and she is the most important person to us too. Oh, so that's how it is. Xiao Chen seems to understand. Dad, Mom, I will definitely fulfill your last wish. Xiao Chen. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and follow me. The familiar name made Zhang Chen stunned, but after his vision became clear, he saw Peng Lao raised his hand and waved. After regrouping, Zhang Chen quickened his pace, here I come, bite. The elevator carried the two of them all the way to the 18th floor. Look, I told you not to use this number because it's unlucky, but your dad didn't listen. Mr. Peng, what's the big deal? I think it's good. When the business gets bigger, who will care about these details? Peng Lao was stunned. You think the same as your father? He said the same thing. The air suddenly fell silent. The two opened the door and walked into the technology company. Walking all the way inside, the further he walked inside, the more Peng Lao frowned as he looked at the messy company. I couldn't help but become more worried about the challenge from Zhang Chen and the Dragon Science University student. Under the current conditions, it is already good enough that we don't have any debts. How will we complete the manufacture of the rocket model? Zhang Chen had no idea what Mr. Peng was thinking, and he explained to himself, the company is being renovated these 2 days. It will not be like this next time you come. Come here, this is my office. 01. Prepare tea. Just when Mr. Peng was still confused, the office door opened and a tall and capable female colleague walked out. She had a standard professional smile on her face. Their posture, expression, and mental outlook were completely different from those senior white-collar workers they had just seen outside the office building. Hello, Mr. Zhang. Zhang Chen nodded and walked straight into the office. Mr. Peng followed and said, this employee is really good, he looks sunny. But you too, don't be like those bosses who make their employees work overtime. As he spoke, Mr. Peng quickened his pace and caught up. Don't take my words too seriously. Case. After entering the office, old Peng looked at 1, 2, and 3 people sitting neatly on the sofa. The voice stopped abruptly. Even the smile on his face disappeared immediately. Pulling Chen Baishan's old face, he followed Zhang Chen and sat opposite them. Obviously, the old man opposite did not expect to meet Mr. Peng here. He quickly put down the teacup in his hand. Hey? Isn't this my old comrade who was demoted and had a bad temper? Why didn't he stay in the library of Lonk University and run out? Zhang Chen, who had just sat down, was stunned when he heard the voice. He looked towards that person with a dim gaze. You, Mologui, can come out to scare people, so why can't I, a normal person, come out? The atmosphere became inexplicably tense. Zhang Tianfeng looked at this one, then at that one. Especially when he saw Zhang Chen's face darken, then he pulled the sleeve of his teacher Mo Cheng inconspicuously. He whispered, Teacher, please say less and don't forget why we came here. Seeing this, Lu Xia he also pulled the corner of his mouth, stood up on his own initiative, leaned forward slightly, and stretched out his right hand. Hello, Mr. Zhang. I am Lu Xia, the one who ordered the rocket model from your company. I am a teacher at Pengcheng Aerospace University. Zhang Chen retracted his gaze, stood up and shook hands with her. Hello, Teacher Lu, I'm Zhang Chen. 2 sentences. Old Peng, who was originally immersed in the battle of magic with Mo Cheng, suddenly raised his head and looked over. A pair of eyes wandered back and forth between the 2 people. Although he appeared calm and composed on the surface, his heart was already in turmoil. Pengcheng Aerospace University. Custom rocket model? This is related to the rocket model that Pengcheng Aerospace University launched a few days ago, which was suspected to be the real thing. Mr. Peng was stunned. For a moment, he even felt a congestion in his forehead. It felt like I might faint at any moment. One hand subconsciously grabbed Zhang Chen. After calming down, she slowly turned to him and asked, Xiao Chen, the rocket model? Did you get it from your company? Zhang Chen nodded and was about to say something when he heard Zhang Tianfeng's explanation from the opposite side. Mr. Peng, we invited you here for this matter. After the Ministry of Education learned about Teacher Liu's practical class, they awarded penance to Teacher Lu Xia and Mr. Zhang Chen respectively. Having said that, Zhang Tianfeng turned and looked towards Lu Xia. The latter took out a certain nail handbag from behind her and carefully took out a silk banner from it. That practical class can definitely be said to be the most outstanding and shocking class in the history of our Ministry of Education. Oh, yes, there's also this. A bonus of 10,000 yuan. Looking at the heavy money wrapped in brown paper that was about to be pushed in front of him, Zhang Chen could smell the scent from a distance. He raised his hand and stopped its forward trajectory. A pair of eyes looked across, as if they could easily see through everything. Lu Xia's qualifications were no match for Mo Cheng and Zhang Tianfang, and she was the first to be unable to withstand the scrutiny. This is the bonus given to me by the higher UPS, but I think if I didn't have President Jiang's help, I wouldn't even be eligible for the year-end evaluation of outstanding vocational education, let alone the silk banner and medal. So, this is a small gift from me, please accept it. As she spoke, Lu Xia pushed the prize money to the other side. After hearing this, if Zhang Chen still hesitated, that would be his problem. Who can't get along with money? Then I'll take it. Seeing this, the people on the opposite side smiled even more. But Peng Lao's face turned bad. Old ghost Mo. You came here without any good intentions, right? Chapter 33. Old Peng looked at Mo Cheng opposite with his sharp eyes. It was as if he wanted to see two holes in Mo Cheng's body. Based on his understanding of this old rival, the matter that made him come out in person must be very difficult. Mo Cheng took a sip of tea. He leaned back and said, Old buddy, what are you saying in front of Mr. Zhang and these young people? Besides, I'm here to discuss business with Mr. Zhang, what does it have to do with you? Besides, haven't you learned enough from your impulsive behavior? Do you want to do it again? Bang. Old Peng slapped the table in front of him. He stood up and said angrily, Mo Cheng. Zhang Chen had never seen Old Peng so furious, so he couldn't help but feel suspicious. Who is that old man opposite? 2 sentences could actually make Mr. Peng so angry. Ding. The system has detected the host's need to identify a character and is currently scanning and analyzing. Please wait. Suddenly, the system prompt sound suddenly appeared in Zhang Chen's mind. The action of drinking tea froze. 3 seconds later, the voice came again. Character profile, Mo Cheng, male, 58 years old, height 181 centimeters, weight 74 kilograms, a man of great potential, colonel of the 1st Military Region of Longguo, blah blah. The old man who was smiling opposite him had no idea that all his information had been exposed to Zhang Chen. But Zhang Chen didn't expect that such an old man would actually be a colonel in the Longguo Military Region. The most incredible thing was that he was in the 1st Military Region. I really can't tell. Maybe it was because his eyes stayed on Mo Cheng for too long. The other party came over lightly. The momentum and sharpness that he had previously shown in his confrontation with Old Peng were completely gone. Trying to make his voice sound calmer, Comrade Zhang Chen, I am Mo Cheng, a lowly official in the 1st Military Region. You can just call me Old Mo. I heard that you developed a liquid nitrogen methane rocket all by yourself, and it is reusable. I wonder if you are willing to join our Longguo Military Region, young comrade? If you agree, all kinds of high-quality resources will be allocated from you first. How about it? Zhang Chen moved his mouth, but before he could give a response, Old Peng beside him got angry. Go away. Put away your tricks and stop fooling our Xiao Chen here. That's right, but only Mr. Peng himself knew that even though these people said so, he subconsciously still did not believe that the rocket came from Zhang Chen's company. Now after hearing what Mo Cheng said, he no longer believed that the rocket was built by Zhang Chen alone, and he dared not believe it. Mr. Peng, how could my teacher deceive Mr. Zhang? We are here too. Elder Peng raised his hand and interrupted him, why are you butting in on what the elders have said? The aura emanating from his body instantly silenced Zhang Tianfang. Peng Jun. If I don't show my power, you think I'm a sick cat, right? I'm here to ask Comrade Zhang Chen's opinion. It's up to him to decide whether he's willing or not. What qualifications do you have to interfere? Hey, you old ghost Mo. If you say that, I have to intervene. If you don't agree, let's give it a try, okay? While they were talking, the two of them had already quietly walked to an open space nearby and rolled up their sleeves. It looked like a big fight was about to happen, but no one at the scene dared to step forward to stop it. The two men raised their arms and swung them in a circle. Even Zhang Chen, who was far away, seemed to be able to feel the strong wind. Boss Zhang, are you sure you don't want to take care of your territory? Lu Xia and Zhang Tianfang turned to look at Zhang Chen nervously. But I only saw the other person leaning on the sofa, drinking tea calmly, and looking as if it had nothing to do with him. Seeing that he didn't move, Zhang Tianfang frowned, stood up and ran over. Lu Xia looked at Zhang Tianfang and then at Zhang Chen, and for a moment she was at a loss as to what to do. 01 Euro Mr. Zhang. I'm here. Just hear a whoosh. 01, who was originally making tea in the lounge, immediately slipped between Mr. Peng and Mr. Mo. Both palms were open towards the two people. The next second, the actions of the two were easily stopped. When he realized that he was being held down by a woman, the most important thing was that she was holding both of them down at the same time. They were stunned. Tried to move, but failed. 01 pulled the two men's arms, walked slowly to Zhang Chen, and then exerted force on the sofas on both sides. Mr. Peng and Mr. Mo were pushed back to their original positions. Now it was their turn to be confused. It was not until 01 left at Zhang Chen's signal that the two of them were unable to recover for a long time. On the contrary, Zhang Tianfang and Lu Xia, who had stood up to mediate the fight, now seemed to have done something unnecessary. The air gradually quieted down. Zhang Chen then spoke, thank you for sparing my little temple. I like freedom the most. A place like the military district with strict discipline is not suitable for me. But if there are any business tasks in the future, I'm still willing to accept them. Zhang Chen's words were naturally meant for old Mo to hear. His expression changed, and he wanted to fight for it, but because of the presence of Mr. Pang, now add to that the girl with the extraordinary hand. Mo Chang had to reconsider this matter. When he left the office building and stood on the street looking back, Mr. Mo's emotions were indescribable. Shaking his head, this is the first time I've been rejected so cleanly. Teacher, this General Zhang may just be unable to react for the time being. After a while, he will naturally be willing to join the military region. Seeing this, Zhang Tianfang took the initiative to step forward and comfort him. Old Mo silently glanced at Zhang Tianfang out of the corner of his eye and said nothing. But I felt very uncomfortable. Especially when I recalled Zhang Chen's words, but if there are any business tasks in the future, I am still willing to accept them. I am willing to offer the lowest price possible. He really didn't expect that young people nowadays focus all their attention on making money. Not long enough, it disappointed him. In the office, Old Pang chatted with Zhang Chen from time to time, but his eyes were always paying attention to 01's movements. He swallowed and asked in a low voice. Xiao Chen, where did you find this girl? She was so strong that my wrist still hurts now. Seeing that Zhang Chen just smiled and said nothing, Old Pang couldn't help but continue, Ahem, Xiao Chen, tell me the truth, the rocket recycling thing is going viral online. Zhang Chen turned his head and stared at Old Pang, then nodded seriously. He saw Old Pang step back, his pupils suddenly contracted, and his face was full of disbelief. I bowed my head and thought for a while. When he raised it again, he pulled Zhang Chen aside and walked around him. I said what I had been holding back for a long time. Don't tell me that you really made that recyclable liquid nitrogen and methane rocket. Chapter 34. After getting a positive answer from Zhang Chen, when Mr. Pang finally left, he didn't even know how he walked out of the office. He turned his body over again and again. Look up at the lit window on the 18th floor. He couldn't help but think of the challenges those students had issued to him when he was at Long University of Science and Technology. It took only 20 days to make a rocket model. Wow. He shook his head, unable to bear to watch. Well, I was worried about this kid before, but I didn't expect that he would hide so much from me. When I left, I couldn't hide the smile on my face. Pengcheng Commercial District, Lu Xia came out of Zhang Chen's company and had just arrived at the school gate when she was invited into the car by the housekeeper sent by her father. At the entrance of a villa that looks luxurious just from the outside, after the car stopped, the butler walked straight to the opposite side, opened the door, bent down and made a please gesture. Then, 2 rows of bodyguards stood on either side of the car door. They all said in unison, Hello, miss. Welcome home, miss. Lu Xia took a deep breath, put on her Nikkei bag, stood up and walked inside. The closer she got to this luxurious yet cold villa, the tighter Lu Xia clenched the metal in her hand. Walking into the living room, he glanced at the maid working at home and whispered, Where is old Lu? The maid was immersed in her own world and didn't react at first. She turned around and saw Lu Xia, then she responded, Miss, are you back? The master has been waiting for her in the study for a long time. Okay, thank you, Sister Zhang. Looking at Lu Xia's back as she walked towards the stairs to the 2nd floor. The maid smiled, turned around and went back to her work, and would say something to her colleagues when she met them. I just saw Miss come back. If we have time later, why don't we go and chat with Miss to relieve our boredom? Really? Okay, okay. Boom boom boom. Enter. A strong and majestic voice of someone who had long been in a superior position came from inside the door. Lu Xia turned the handle and walked in. Lu Yuanhang was sitting at his desk facing the computer, not knowing what he was doing. When he knew his daughter came in, he pointed to the seat next to him. Then, without turning his head, he continued looking at the computer. Today's meeting ends here. You better come up with a decent plan within the next few days. Otherwise, all of you, get out of the technology company without waiting for my order. The file slammed shut. Lu Yuanhang subconsciously reached out and pinched his forehead. During the 2 days when the liquid nitrogen and methane rocket was launched, he always felt his temples throbbing. It's like I can't control it at all. What? Are Lao Liu's employees so incompetent now? Listening to his daughter's ridicule, Lu Yuanhang curled his lips. When my emotions calmed down a little, then he looked up at his daughter. With resentment in his eyes, he asked, Since you know they are not doing well, why don't you come back and help me manage them? Why? Do you have to wait for me, your father, to personally invite you before you are willing to go home? Besides, what's the good of living in your crappy school? The environment is not as good as home. It would be better if you came back earlier to take over my... Lu Xia knew that as soon as she returned home, she would inevitably have to listen to Lu Yuanhang's nagging. He stood up and stopped him. Yes, I didn't come back today to listen to your nagging. Pop. A medal slid directly from the desk to Lu Yuanhang's front. Here, this is for you. Don't ask me to come back and inherit the family property anytime in the future. Lu Xia pulled out the chair opposite Lu Yuanhang. In order to solve the problem from the root this time, she simply sat down and prepared to have a good chat with her old father. Lu Yuanhang didn't even look at him, but crossed his hands on the table in front of him. He looked at his daughter meaningfully. Xiao, father is not joking with you. Why do you think I am working so hard? You are my only daughter. In the end, all my property will belong to you. No matter what, you have to come back to inherit it. Dad. This is not the life I want. You won't force me after I pass the evaluation. Didn't we agree on this before? Lu Xia was also a little anxious. She frowned and her voice was trembling and stubborn when she spoke. Evaluation? Do you think it's easy to get an evaluation at Pengcheng Aerospace University? That's not at all. Isn't this a medal? I showed it to you but you didn't want to look at it. Anyway, I have already done it. I will not come back to inherit the family fortune. I want to pursue my own life. Lu Xia leaned on the edge of the desk with her back to Lu Yuanhang. The latter looked over as his daughter pointed. Only then did he see the full picture of the medal. Startled. He held up the medal with trembling hands. He said in disbelief, This is the National Ministry of Education's high-level professional certification medal? How did you get it? Where was it stolen from? Of course, Lu Yuanhang did not say the latter sentence. He was well aware of Longguo's strict education system. I never thought that such a medal would be presented to my own daughter one day. This is something to be proud of even more than being evaluated for excellence at Pengcheng Aerospace University. How is it? Am I the winner of our previous bet? Don't ask me to go home and inherit the family property all the time. An excellent teacher like me must shine in the school and cultivate more outstanding talents for Longguo. Old Lu, have you remembered? If you do, I'll go back to my bedroom. I've been preparing for practical classes these past 2 days and I'm exhausted. As she spoke, Lu Xia yawned and walked out. By the time Lu Yuanhang reacted, Lu Xia had already walked out of the study door. 1 hour later, when she passed by the study to drink water, she saw Lu Yuanhang holding the medal and the phone in his hand. Old Wang, our daughter has made great progress. That's right. That's a medal that only excellent teachers who have been certified by the national level can get. Lu Xia shook her head. Only when she returned to her bedroom did she truly believe that she could escape the fate of inheriting the family fortune. Lie back on the bed, looking at the starry ceiling, he blinked. He muttered to himself, this time it's really all thanks to Zhang Chen, otherwise, it would be a long way to go before I can be evaluated for excellence. Suddenly, Lu Xia sat up from the bed and ran to the bedside table. He picked up his phone and flipped to the contact page of Zhang Chen on Xianyu. After thinking for a long time, the slender fingers began to tap very quickly. Mr. Zhang, after having been witnessed by those experts and later receiving the award from the Ministry of Education, I still feel that you can't lose money on this business. Chapter 35. Zhang Chen, who was sitting on the bed meditating, moved his ears slightly, opened his eyelids and looked at the bedside table. He took a quick glance at the private message sent by Lu Xia. Without any reaction, he put the phone back. I got into position and was about to get back into the state. The next second, the mobile banking arrival notification rang. Now, Zhang Chen's desire to meditate was completely gone. He simply lay down on the bed, stretched out his long arms, and took the phone back. Mr. Zhang, your bank card with the last number 6877 has a deposit of 300,000 yuan, and the current balance is... Zhang Chen was shocked. Oh my god. Are all these rich ladies so straightforward in doing things nowadays? Feeling that you are getting a bargain, you even offered to pay more? I have to say, Zhang Chen had seen people bargaining since he was born, but he had never seen anyone with such special requests. It seems that Miss Lu Xia is really a character. I couldn't help feeling a sense of emotion. If in the future I receive orders from this type of rich second generation on Xianyu, then why would his Jianglin Technology Company be worried about not having operating funds? Isn't this the right way to get rich? Perhaps on a whim, Zhang Chen reopened Xianyu and looked through the order list. In addition to the rocket order from the Dragon Science and Technology Institute with the note same, there was no other order. He didn't see any extra words appear. Let's take a look at Fengxiu Technology Company. The orders are almost filling up the entire page. Although the amount of 1 or 2 orders is not as large as that of my order, when all are added together, I don't know how many times more than my order. Alas! Can the gap between people not be so big? Is this a test from God? Zhang Chen lost his temper and turned over to lie down on the side. I looked up at the ceiling, and my eyelids became heavier as I looked. Eagle Sauce Technology Strategic Information Headquarters. A young blonde man was lying on his back on the soft sofa. Holding an exquisite goblet in his hand, the maid beside him bent down and poured a thin layer of whiskey into his glass. He shook it gently, smiled, tilted his head back and drank it. Ms. Weiwei, can you play some music of higher quality for me? Life should be full of ritual. Yes, Mr. Smith. The soft yet cheerful music instantly filled the entire room. The moment he closed his eyes, there was a look of enjoyment between his eyebrows. He crossed his legs and leaned back. Cross your palms, place them on your midsection, and tap the rhythm. Ding-a-ling. The shrill ringing of the telephone on the coffee table next to his ear directly interrupted his harmonious rhythm of life. Smith frowned, and even his originally high nose bridge looked even higher. I feel upset in my chest. But the moment I answered the phone, his expression changed in the blink of an eye, and a professional fake smile appeared on his face. Hello, this is the Science and Technology Strategic Information Headquarters. I'm Smith. How can I help you? The other side obviously did not accept this hypocritical greeting. He said to himself, this is the Eagle Sauce Space Base. Our rocket was severely damaged by the Dragon Country rocket not long ago. It melted instantly. We have received information that the Dragon Country rocket is suspected to be recyclable. The space base is checking with you. The voice from the other end was official and cold, and Smith rolled his eyes when he heard it. But due to his status, I had no choice but to be polite. Oh, dear Commander Terran Lu, don't worry about this matter, according to the overall analysis we made on Longguo technology a month ago. Based on their limited knowledge of rockets, let alone making their rockets reusable, they can't even add satellite functions to their rockets. Even if they were given another 50 years, they might not be able to grasp the edge of this technology. As he spoke, Smith gestured with his hand to the maid beside him to fill up his square glass with whiskey. When talking about Longguo, the sarcasm on his face was not concealed at all. But, their Dragon Country rockets can burn and melt our rockets in an instant. This is something that has been witnessed by countless eyes. How could it be false? Smith was silent for a moment after hearing this. His eyes slowly turned to the newspaper in his pocket that he had not yet finished reading. Also, many countries in the International Alliance have rockets. Oh, sir, what you said really makes me doubt whether you have reached a clear state of mind. After all, it's working hours now. Let's put it this way. Our Science and Technology Strategic Information Headquarters will soon give you a perfect answer. Before that, I wish you a nice day. Snap. Smith did not give the opponent any chance to react. He hung up the phone immediately. His deep eyes were frowned, and his angular mouth was not clear, and no one knew what he was mumbling. The next second, I saw him pulling the newspaper out of his pocket in annoyance. Leaning back, one hand hooked up the gold-rimmed chain glasses in the other pocket. After putting it on the shelf, he squinted and looked at it. Soon, Smith realized that something was wrong. What was published in the newspaper was exactly what happened in the International League yesterday. Joint meeting, a plan of action adopted by all countries. When he saw the image of half of the rockets with the logos of various countries melting in the center of the newspaper, his pupils almost shattered. Oh my god! Did this happen yesterday? Why haven't I received any news? Smith could no longer sit still and stood up and walked back and forth in the room. The soft and cheerful music in his ears made him feel annoyed. He closed it with his backhand. The maid pursed her lips and rolled her eyes. After hesitating for a moment, he stepped forward and said, "In fact, you also received an invitation to watch the rocket's obstruction plan yesterday." The maid took out an exquisite and gorgeous invitation from her pocket. Handed it to Smith. The latter was stunned for a few seconds, his eyes fixed on the invitation. He picked it up with trembling hands. The frown on his brow instantly became even bigger. "Then why didn't you inform me?" "Oh, my dear Mr. Smith, you were sleeping at that time. I called you, but you responded that no one could disturb you." The other end of the phone. After the call was hung up, Taran Lo suddenly stood up and kicked the wall after realizing that he had not received the key information and had been hung up. Damn it. This Smith, I will go to the president in person and file a complaint against him someday. I really don't know where they hired such irresponsible and perfunctory people. Taran Lu sat back on the sofa, put his hands in his hair, lowered his head, and wondered what he was thinking. Chapter 36. The next morning. The sun shines on the earth. Within the office building area of A Euro Pengcheng North District, white-collar executives hurriedly ran towards their company. A small electric scooter was parked in an inconspicuous corner. Zhang Chen took off his helmet and walked towards the company yawning. As soon as he opened the door, he saw 01 standing at the door waiting for him. "Mr. Zhang, good morning." Zhang Chen nodded, but he really couldn't muster much energy. After entering the office, "I haven't rested for long. I remembered the order from Long Institute. 01, check the remaining materials in the warehouse and give me a detailed list within 3 minutes. Bite." Zhang Chen had just finished speaking. The next second, the relevant information released by 01 appeared in my mind. At the same time, the relevant details page also appeared on the computer in front of me. "Mr. Zhang, the relevant detailed form has been transferred to your computer, please check it." With his eyebrows slightly raised, Zhang Chen turned on the computer and read 10 lines at a glance. Going back into the warehouse, Zhang Chen's mind moved, and dozens of round robots that had previously made rockets for Uchiha floated in front of him again. This time is different from the last time. Dozens of circular robots no longer need Zhang Chen to give orders personally. Connect to Zhang Chen's Xianu account and automatically start the order execution mode. Strengthen and build rockets. Looking at the small round robot working diligently in front of him, and the housekeeper assistant 01 busying around outside, Zhang Chen had a sense of being carried away by high technology. "I thought I could sit aside and enjoy everything now." But after a while, Zhang Chen suddenly felt that he shouldn't just sit there doing nothing and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Before receiving new scientific research knowledge transmitted by Yanhuang Science and Technology Scientist System, at least he should consolidate and pick up his previous scientific research knowledge. That's all. 01 organize outside decorators to participate in the decoration and renovation of technology companies. He sat in the office and studied. "Mr. Zhang, do you have any other requirements for the company's decoration?" He was so absorbed in his studies that he didn't notice when the door to his office was opened. The sudden sound here frightened him so much that he shivered. Looking up at that person, Zhang Chen said calmly, "I don't have any requirements. For the specific plan, you can ask my assistant, the one outside." The man was obviously stunned when he heard the words. But later he smiled obsequiously and nodded, ready to leave. As I turned to leave the door, I couldn't help but mutter. Although the company is not big, I never thought there were only 2 of them. It's too shabby. It's strange that there would be any business. However, what that person didn't expect was that Zhang Chen could easily hear this little murmur. He stopped what he was doing. There was a pause. "It's time to hire some employees. After all, we're going to be big sooner or later." At first, Zhang Chen still hoped that he could awaken some high-tech intelligent assistance in the system. But after checking back and forth, he did not find any robot that met his requirements. There are a few robots with similar functions to 01. Zhang Chen could tell it was a robot just by looking at its appearance. Not to mention hiding it from the customers. Plus the 10,000 technology points you need to exchange for as noted below. This alone is enough to easily make Zhang Chen shut up. He gave up the idea in just a moment. Forget it, let's just hire some employees. Cuckoo, the growling of his stomach caught Zhang Chen's attention. He looked up at the clock hanging on the wall. Oh my god. How come it's already noon so soon? He slowly looked at the information on the desk and seriously doubted his learning progress. This doubt lasted only a few seconds. In Zhang Chen's consciousness, the sky is big, the earth is big, but rice is the biggest. Around Pengcheng North District at noon, Zhang Chen had just walked out of the office building and was planning his lunch. Suddenly, a group of white-collar employees who had just gotten off work suddenly appeared around him. They rushed down from the upper floors like a tide. In a flash, the figure disappeared into the commercial snack street. Originally, there was only the sound of vendors chopping vegetables in the snack street. At this moment, the sounds of food being put into the pot, white-collar workers fighting for territory, ordering food, and the waiter serving the dishes, all come one after another. The entire commercial snack street became lively in an instant. The smell of fireworks rose from the commercial streets. Seeing this, Zhang Chen twitched his lips. How could he forget that he had also experienced running for meals with his father before? After looking at various snacks, he finally chose a special noodle restaurant that was not very crowded. Walked in. Boss, give me some special noodles. Okay. Just wait a moment, it will be ready soon. At this time, an extended luxury car that seemed somewhat out of place in the scene stopped. The shiny leather shoes were the first to step out and appear in the public eye. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of two car doors closing. A burst of hurried trot sounds was heard. A hot wavy blonde beauty with a hot body and black stockings, wearing a professional short skirt and work suit, suddenly walked to the opposite side of the car. Mr. Liu, you are just here to acquire a company. Is it necessary for you to come all the way here in person? It can be done just as well if you hand it over to someone below you. Xia Shui lifted the briefcase in her hand, tossed her blonde hair back, and looked around. Besides, there are so many people here, it's too crowded. Lu Yuanhang looked at her silently without saying anything. If you want to eat somewhere else, I won't stop you. After saying that, he walked into a restaurant serving pork trotter rice. He didn't care about Xia Shui's reaction behind him. Seeing this, Xia Shui was stunned for a few seconds. I realized that the restaurant my boss entered was actually the one with the largest number of people. Raise your hand and gently stroke your forehead. After sighing, she walked straight in with her long, straight legs and high heels. Excuse me, please make way. You are such a good person. Thank you. The voice was unconsciously clamped, coupled with her outstanding and somewhat enchanting face, many employees around her consciously made way for her. However, after she squeezed in, but he did not see his boss Lu Yuanhang inside. He looked back and forth for a long time. Several male employees behind her were also looking at her. Although they have tried their best to control their gaze, but I still can't help being attracted by that proud figure. Beautiful lady, do you still want to get food? Or just one meal, brother, I will treat you. Xia Shui concealed the disgust in her eyes and put on an official smile. Suddenly, then he saw Lu Yuanhang who had been squeezed into a corner. He was also looking over here, his face somewhat gloomy. Chapter 37. Xia Shui naturally knew what Lu Yuanhang was thinking. She herself is helpless too. She is beautiful, has a good figure, and is popular. How can it be her fault? She raised her hand and gestured to wait. Turning back to look at the boss, boss. 2 servings of pork trotter rice. Thank you. This shout made the boss's face blossom. With a big smile on his face, he responded enthusiastically, okay, okay, wait a moment, girl, it will be ready soon. I can't say it's magic, the boss's hands moved much faster than usual. Seeing this, the customer next to him couldn't help but tease, hey, boss, when you make it for me later, don't be slower than this. That's right. You can't treat them differently. Listening to the customers in front of him making noises, the boss didn't get angry and just responded to them one by one. The speed of the hand movements did not slow down. In no time, the 2 servings of pork trotter rice that Xia Shui ordered were prepared. Same as before, the employees automatically made way for him. This made it very smooth for Xia Shui to go out. She held up 2 servings of pork trotter noodles and placed them in front of Lu Yuanhang, saying proudly, how is it, boss? My skills are still pretty good, right? Lu Yuanhang took his portion and walked out. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. Fortunately, this girl came with him, otherwise, considering the flow of people at this time when he is getting off work, he would not know when he would be able to have lunch. It's strange to say, if you encounter such a peak period, no matter when it is, as long as Xia Shui was with him as his assistant, he would always finish his lunch early. She was also very successful in getting food, and everyone who saw her would make way for her. He looked down at a footprint on his leather shoe that someone had stepped on at some unknown time. Speaking of which, he was a little envious. Boss, let's go to that one. There are fewer people there. Lu Yuanhang looked around the noodle shop that Xia Shui pointed to. Good. After entering, the 2 of them realized that the small number of people was only an appearance. From inside, there were quite a lot of people, at least all the seats were occupied. Xia Shui smiled somewhat unnaturally. His eyes were focused on the corner where Zhang Chen was. Unfortunately, there was only one vacant seat across the street. But many of the others are already full, so this is the only option available for reference. The beautiful eyes then lit up. Boss. I have an idea. Please wait here and I will give you a hot meal in a moment. After that, she walked to the opposite side of Zhang Chen with cat steps. Slowly sat down. At first, I stood far away, so Xia Shui didn't notice it. But now the distance is closer, she actually discovered that Zhang Chen opposite her was actually quite handsome. He's the kind of handsome guy who can debut right away with just a little bit of packaging. She had seen countless men, and now looking at Zhang Chen's face, she couldn't help but feel amorous. She casually put the pork trotter powder aside. One hand naturally lifted her chin and she looked at Zhang Chen with seductive eyes. The voice is as soft as a kitten's. Handsome guy, I see you are almost done eating, can you give me a seat? When this voice came out, even the employees sitting next to them felt numb. At this moment, I even felt that my bones were about to be chewed crispy. If his girlfriend wasn't sitting opposite him, he would definitely give her his seat without hesitation. Now that his girlfriend is present, he dare not do this. Don't talk about actions, not even any thoughts. Yes. There can't be. Just thinking like this, he didn't see the young man make any movement. He just seemed to have heard nothing and just kept smacking his lips as if it had nothing to do with him. Pursing his lips, he wanted to go forward and wake up, but he seemed to notice the angry gaze on the other side. I suppressed my impulse and woke myself up. Yes. I can't meddle in other people's business. Impulse is the devil. Seeing no response from the other party, Xia Shui thought he didn't hear her. Just as she was about to repeat her words, she heard an extremely cold voice. No. The voice was stern but unquestionable. And Zhang Chen didn't even raise his head. But this response made Xia Shui a little dazed. Lu Yuanhang was the first to react. With a puff, I couldn't help but laugh. I really didn't expect that comrade Xia Shui, who everyone wanted to give way to, it is really not easy to encounter a Waterloo day. And most importantly, I was the one who witnessed it with my own eyes. Xia Shui herself couldn't believe what was happening in front of her. With a trembling voice, what did you just say? This time Zhang Chen raised his head and looked up. I said no. After saying that, he lowered his head and continued to eat his noodles. This was the first time Xia Shui had experienced such a thing, and her face was still a little cracked. Faced with the first rejection, she was even a little overwhelmed. Zhang Chen lowered his head and ate his meal. I couldn't help but complain in my heart, who do you think you are? You just say let me go and I'll give way to you? When she entered the noodle shop with the boss who looked unusual in his attire, he had already noticed the two of them. Doesn't he want to eat? He even gave up his seat to you. That's a nice thought. I thought girls were thin-skinned and would give up after being rejected once. What's more, the girl in front of him, who was quite good-looking, had experienced it twice. NA will definitely not stay any longer. I didn't expect the next second. There was a loud snap. Suddenly, there were several big red furs in front of my eyes. He frowned, casually pulled out 2 tissues from the side, and wiped his lips calmly. He leaned back and looked over leisurely. What do you mean? Take out 3 Mao Zedong notes and you will succeed in chasing them away. What is she thinking? Could it be that this girl was kicked in the head by a donkey? Their 01 is still the best, smart, and beautiful. Looking across the entire blue planet, there is no human being who can compare to them. What's wrong with 3? Not enough? I can add more. Her boss was right behind them, and they had important tasks to accomplish today, so they couldn't waste time eating. Then, 1, 2, 3. Zhang Chen took a deep breath and saw that the girl was still trying to increase the money. Reach out to stop, stop. That's enough. How rich is this person? He looks like a nouveau riche, which has a very bad influence. Zhang Chen stood up, packed up his dishes and prepared to leave. Just as you are about to take a step forward, take half a step back. Facing Xia Shui's surprised gaze, he grabbed the 6 Mao Zedong notes with his big hand and put them into his pocket. Okay, now the seat is yours. I went out and patted my pockets, feeling satisfied. Only fools would have trouble with money. Chapter 38. But what Zhang Chen didn't know was, as he left, Lu Yunhang's eyes darkened. Step by step, she walked to the seat that Xia Suihua had bought at a high price. He sighed deeply, alas, the quality of young people nowadays is really poor. They only care about money. If we had met such people in the past, you will be criticized by everyone. How many times have you said this to me, boss? Just eat quickly. Xia Shui opened the pork trotter rice, and the fragrant smell came towards Lu Yunhang in the wind blowing in from the open window. The glutton in his stomach was immediately aroused. But when he thought of Zhang Chen's behavior, he couldn't help but complain. No matter how we develop in the future, young people still need to learn to remember the past and cherish the present. Otherwise, how can society progress in the future? After lunch, my stomach was filled. Zhang Chen took out 600 yuan from his pocket and counted it carefully. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. During the critical period, before receiving a big order, we still have to save money. After all, even a fly leg is meat. Put it back in your pocket, he immediately returned to the technology company. After entering, Zhang Chen couldn't help but be shocked by the scene in front of him. He stood there in a daze for a long while. He really didn't expect that the scenery in front of him would suddenly change. If I were to say that before I took over the company from my father, it was still a simple style, Zhang Chen would like to call this company punk safe style. High-tech light threads are revealed everywhere, full of technological sense. Isn't this a real-life black technology? Just this decoration, it seems that in the future, his treasured place will be frequented by those rich second generations who are born to show off. Welcome back, Mr. Zhang. There was a chorus of welcome, and Zhang Chen paused before turning around to look over. Originally, there was only 01 in my company. In terms of personnel, it has expanded to 6 people. Zhang Chen didn't react at first, but after seeing 01's reaction, recalling previous experiences, he automatically checked his phone without being reminded. On the job recruitment notice board in Pengcheng North District. Suddenly, there was an additional recruitment notice belonging to their Jianglan Technology Company. Zhang Chen smiled with relief. I couldn't help but sigh that it was a blessing to have a high-tech smart assistant butler by my side in the early stages of the company's launch. Byte. Strengthen the technology inventor system. Rocket strengthening and manufacturing have been completed. After receiving the system prompt, Zhang Chen called 4 staff members and headed straight to the warehouse. As you are about to enter, his steps suddenly stopped. Turning around and looking at the 4 people behind him, who among you can drive a big car? Go get ready. I. Mr. Zhang, I can do it. The one who spoke was a big boy who looked very sunny and cheerful. There was a smile on his face, and his words made people reluctant to refuse. Go ahead. Okay, the boy responded crisply. Just about to run out. Zhang Chen called him, what's your name? Zhao Yais. Remember to ask 01 for the keys and be careful when driving. Zhang Chen nodded and couldn't help but remind him. After explaining, he turned around and continued to lead everyone towards the warehouse. As soon as the door of the storeroom was opened, the dozens of round robots that had completed the rocket strengthening and manufacturing work and had not yet had time to withdraw, final work arrangements are being completed at the venue. Move the 60-meter-high rocket. Although there are many of them, the colorful lights give people a dazzling feeling. However, during the operation, the goals were clear and the process was very orderly. This made the 3 employees except Zhang Chen's eyes widen instantly. They stared at the automated circular robot operating in front of them with looks of horror. I don't know who among the 3 people couldn't help it. Damn. Are these things really something that can be supported by modern technology? I've only seen these in movies. Another person shook his head and followed suit. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed what I saw. Yeah, I thought the decoration outside this company was already very cool, but compared to this, it's just the tip of the iceberg and not worth mentioning. The screams that followed one after another seemed normal to Zhang Chen. He even welcomed it. Because at this moment in his mind, on the page provided by the system, the crystal blue data kept flashing and jumping. The shock value from Zhang Xian is 3000. The shock value from Huang Ya is 3000. Shock value from Wang Peng, 3600. Made a fortune. Following this trend, then wouldn't it be possible for him to spend his technology points at will without any regret? It seems that joining Jianglan Technology Company is a good decision for us. I thought this company would be a good one just by the name, right? What a pity that Yi Ziyi is not here. He likes this kind of high-tech image the most. Isn't this better than watching a movie? Okay, stop talking, everyone, lend a hand and help. Zhang Chen guessed that if he didn't hurry up and interrupt them, they would probably start to flatter him. Give me a hand? The 3 of them hadn't reacted to Zhang Chen's words yet, and their eyes were staring straight ahead. I saw dozens of round flashing robots easily lifting up the rocket. Moving and preparing to go out. Don't just stand there, open the door. You guys follow the car later and deliver the rocket to the Dragon Science Institute. After you see the other party pay the money, come back and your mission will be accomplished. After completing the task, Zhang Chen turned around and prepared to leave the warehouse. After all, in addition to this task, he has a 20-day challenge to complete. Sometimes when I lie in bed and meditate, even he himself couldn't figure it out. Obviously he didn't do anything, let alone provoke those people. Why did I bring so much trouble upon myself for no reason? There were only 3 shocked faces left. Their lips trembled. This is an order from the Dragon Science Institute. Isn't the Dragon Academy the place with the most advanced technology in Dragon Country? How could it be? Placing an order with a small tech company? They couldn't figure it out, and they couldn't understand it even more. A few words came to mind. It seems like I have found a golden thigh this time. At the same time, the truck finally stopped. As soon as Zhao Yais got off the car, he saw a huge object wrapped tightly in a curtain installed on the back of the car. I was wondering and wanted to ask. My companions couldn't contain their excitement. He put his arm around his shoulders and walked towards the driving position of the truck. Brother, don't ask any more questions. You will know everything when we reach our destination. Chapter 39. Zhao Yais drove the truck according to the route provided by several people. But he is not a fool. As we drove along, I felt that the route I was driving along according to their instructions was not ordinary. Tisk tisk. He turned the steering wheel and stopped directly on the side of the road. He looked seriously at his 3 companions. Tell me. Where are we transporting this thing to? Although I don't know the route, it's true that I haven't been there. Looking at the huge thing behind the carriage, he had a bad feeling in his heart, and his left eyelid began to twitch. It's even getting more intense, with no sign of stopping. The companions exchanged glances. The person sitting closest to him in the passenger seat whispered something in his ear. Zhao Yai's pupils suddenly contracted, and his expression changed suddenly. Are you serious? The place we are going to is the Dragon Science Institute. Have you ever seen a pig run even though you haven't eaten pork? If you randomly pick a dragon countryman, he or she will probably know what the Dragon Science Institute means. What's in the back? What technological products do you bring to Long Institute? How big is it? Zhao Yai's mind was shaken by his companion's response. He felt as if he was floating up into the clouds. If this is the case, then the worries in his heart will almost disappear completely. Restart the engine. When he set out on his journey, his mood was no longer as heavy as when he came here, knowing nothing. At the gate of Pengcheng Dragon Science Institute, the 4 men who were responsible for escorting the rocket drove a large cart and were stopped by the guards at the gate. He raised his gun and intercepted it. They were all young people who had just entered society. When had they ever seen such a big scene? Even if I had seen guns before, it was only on TV. Besides, which boy, whether in childhood or when he grows up, doesn't have a heroic dream of defending his country? Only, different from what you might imagine, now let's switch to real life. Looking at the black hole-like gun hole, it seemed as if their lives would be swallowed up in the next second. My calves couldn't stop trembling at this moment. I forgot to get off the car and even forgot to breathe. The guard frowned and walked towards the car door with steady steps. One of them was holding a gun, facing them in front of the glass. It looked more like he was watching over them, fearing that they might do something unusual. The other one cautiously opened the car door and shouted, "Get out of the car." Several people swallowed their saliva, not daring to resist. Almost at the moment the sound was heard, they actively cooperated, and 2 of them even put their hands on their heads and slowly squatted down. The guards who were watching them were stunned when they saw this. I couldn't help but sigh, these 2 will have to be carefully examined later. Looking at his skilled movements, who knows if he has a criminal record? Make a secret note of it in your mind. He raised his chin towards his companions and the carriage. After the latter receives the information from his companion, I called a few comrades over via walkie-talkie. They walked towards the carriage at the same time. 3, 2, 1. Open up. With a crackling sound, the curtain that originally wrapped the rocket extremely tightly was torn to pieces in an instant. The 60-meter-high rocket was exposed in front of everyone. They were shocked. His mouth was wide open. Holy crap! Is this a rocket? Not only the guards at the gate, even Zhao Yai's, who was unable to witness this behemoth in person when he was working at the technology company, was stunned. It was only on his way back that he thought about what kind of technological gadgets were installed in the back of the car. But he really never paid attention to the rockets. He turned his head jerkingly toward his companion. Seeing the latter's awkward smile, Zhao Yai's guessed that they must have known in advance what was installed in the back. Everyone knew about it, yet they kept it from him alone. The look in his eyes slowly changed from questioning to resentment. The look on his face seemed to be saying to them, "You idiots. I'll take note of this first. We'll settle the score later. You. Go report to the dean." "Yes." The guards ran towards the director's office building of Long Institute. Zhao Yai's and others stood aside and waited for the result. As for the 2 who held their heads in their hands at the beginning, they were not as lucky as Zhao Yai's and the others. The 2 of them were kept in solitary confinement by the guards. The 2 dark gun barrels were placed in front of them, making them dare not make any unnecessary movements. I'm afraid that if I'm not careful, I'll bring myself some unnecessary trouble. 15 minutes later, everyone saw several anxious figures in the distance striding and jogging towards this side. When those people came closer, the guard immediately recognized Dean Su Zhang standing in the center. And beside them, Elder Wang, Elder Chen, and team leader Hua Jiyun of Long Academy were just as fast. I have to say, since guarding the gate of Long Academy, but they had never seen the dean and the elders so anxious. He looked as if he would miss something if he was a step slower. Several people looked at the rocket behind the carriage with excitement on their faces, especially Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen, whose hands were shaking. There is even a vague tendency that is out of control. He was also full of confidence. I didn't expect that Comrade Zhang Chen would be able to complete it so quickly. How many days have passed? Certainly, in addition to the parties involved, Zhao Yai's, his colleagues, and the guards at the door were all confused. Su Zhang stroked his beard with satisfaction. 1 day. It's only been 1 day since I placed the order, and Zhang Chen has already completed it. No one could hear anything unusual in his words, they even sounded bland. But Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen knew what it meant. Suddenly, in front of everyone, Mr. Wang actually climbed directly onto the carriage. He reached out and gently stroked the rocket purchased by their Dragon Science Institute. A reusable rocket powered by liquid nitrogen and methane. To others, his pious look seemed like he was carefully touching some treasure. Hurry, hurry, hurry. What are you still standing there for? Find someone to carry it in carefully. After Wang Lao finished speaking, Su Zhang even added 2 sentences himself, that's right. You must remember to be careful. Be careful. Zhang Xian and Wang Peng, who were squatting on the side, looked at each other after hearing this. In a low voice, want to talk? Speak up. That was arranged by the sponsor. Looking at the gun in front of him, he pursed his lips. Gathering up enough courage, he stood up suddenly and said, no. You must pay the money before you can transport the rocket in. Once these words came out, not to mention the guards and the people from the Dragon Academy, even Zhao Yais and Huang Ye turned to look over. Zhao Yais, who had no idea what was going on, was stunned. Are they crazy? What are they talking about? Chapter 40. In this situation in front of so many people, Huang Ye couldn't explain anything to Zhao Yais. I simply closed my eyes, took a deep breath and leaned against the wall. I'm not going to resist, I'm just going to take it one step at a time. After all, Wang Peng and his team were facing people from Long Academy. How could Huang Ye know their emotions and thoughts? If someone gets angry and blames them, they will be helpless and can only bear it. Although the small boss of the technology company was able to do business with Long Institute and did not seem to be a simple person, she could not guarantee that the boss of the other company would be willing to say anything to Long Institute for them. Zhao Yais was even more confused when he saw this. He glanced at the two guns lying across the door, pursed his lips, and asked in a low voice. Hey, I'm talking to you, what's going on? Ancestor, please stop talking. I will explain to you when we leave safely later. Huang Ye clenched her teeth, and the sound came out from between her teeth, indistinct. Zhao Yais frowned even more tightly after hearing this. At this time, Su Zheng was looking at Wang Peng and Zhang Xian with a curious look on his face. The two looked at each other and exchanged glances. At this time, it can be said that I have given it my all. You, don't look at us like that. We are also doing things according to the boss's request, so please cooperate. After saying this, the two of them took half a step back. Looking at the cold guns in front of them, they felt somewhat frightened. The guards who were guarding the two of them never expected that at such a critical moment. These two people actually came up with this. He couldn't help but raise the gun in his hand. Be quiet. What do you want to do? Rebellion. Seeing the guards about to take the two away, wait. Su Zheng raised his hand to stop them. In front of everyone at the door, he slowly walked towards Wang Peng and Huang Xian. Just when they thought they were dead, they even thought of their last words. Su Zheng slowly took out his cell phone from his pocket. He raised his hand and waved to the people who had their eyes closed. Come here and watch carefully, ah. The feeling of being taken away as I imagined did not appear. After hearing this friendly voice, he tentatively opened one eye. Especially Wang Peng and Huang Xian, they saw that the guns in front of them had been removed. I felt relieved. He stepped forward. I saw this man who was respected as the dean by the people around him, operating the mobile phone in hand. In a few seconds, the transfer page appeared on the phone. The bank card number was automatically attached to the order after Su Zheng placed the order. As long as he receives the goods, he can click payment after the order. Fingerprints were pressed on it. It took a total of 2 seconds. Zhao Yais, Wang Peng and others saw with their own eyes a string of zeros after the 5, which directly indicated that the payment was successful. See? Now you can leave the rocket to us without any worries. Su Zheng smiled and looked at them. In fact, I have secretly complained in my heart, Zhang Chen is indeed cautious in his actions, but would our Dragon Academy be the kind of person who refuses to pay its debts? When we have time, we should visit him more often to make our presence felt so that he can get to know us, which will be beneficial for future cooperation. Comrades, we need to borrow this big car for a while. How about we give it to you later? It won't take long. The few people who were still standing there in confusion had no idea what was happening. At this time, Zhao Yais, who had been silent, suddenly remembered something and spoke. Borrow it once, 50 yuan. He didn't expect that he would say this at the time. It was just that I saw the logo from the passenger seat when I was about to drive the truck out at the entrance of the technology company. Although he also knew that it was the Dragon Science Institute that was going to requisition the large vehicle, but by the time he reacted, the words had already been spoken. Zhao Yais subconsciously raised his hand and slapped his mouth. He whispered, Bah, my mouth. Upon hearing this, Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen and others who had already turned around slowly turned around. A pair of eyes is like watching a good show. Su Zheng could see that they were trying their best to hold back their laughter. If there hadn't been a few outsiders present, they would have probably burst out laughing by now. Little Zhang Chen, he's really calculating in his life. I'm afraid he has bought out all of Lan Xing's plans. Finally, when these people were sent away, Su Zheng did not show up. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. All the blame was put on Zhang Chen. On the way back, Zhao Yais and his companions remained silent for a long time, but they were thinking different things. As the one who knew the least among the few people, Zhao Yais couldn't help but ask them in the end. Don't you have anything you want to say to me, brothers? I saw that everyone was quite talkative just now. The tone sounds sarcastic. Several people spoke one after another and simply told what had happened. Especially when talking about the cool round robot scene in the warehouse of the technology company, Wang Peng and Huang Xian's eyes were shining. Zhao Yais was stunned when he heard this, and pursed his lips and said, Is it really as mysterious as you say? I have seen the same scene you described on TV. On the big car, oh, right. Did you see clearly just now? How much is the order for the boss? That's 500 WS. 500. I see. We are not blind. Can you please shut your mouth for a while? You have been yelling for long enough, my eardrums can't take it anymore, ha ha ha. Several young people have never been so excited, I even started to imagine my future as a successful career in a technology company. On the other side, after Zhang Chen gave instructions to his new employees, he returned happily to his small cubicle in the office. He also seems to be in a very good mood. After all, these days, in just a few days, he had transformed from a debt-ridden prodigal to a small boss who could make money with his technology. Now look, I also completely came out of this short period of suffering. Now I have my own small team, planning for the future is 100 times more confident. I couldn't help it for a moment, he started laughing. I held the phone in my hand and just opened the Weibo account, hoping to have some light entertainment. A bank card arrival information prompt will pop up above. Fierce, he stood up and sat up straight, staring at the person behind him with wide eyes. Yes. This Dean is really generous. If he places the same order as Uchiha, wouldn't it be fine if he just paid 2 million? Thinking back, he realized that his fame was now limited to a few leaders of Long Institute and Pengcheng University of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and business was indeed not easy to do. Forget it, just keep it. Chapter 41. Leaning back, Zhang Chen slid his finger across the phone screen, and the page directly switched to the trading platform. There is still no order data as shown below. I couldn't help but shook my head, business is still not easy these days. Zhang Chen finally understood. Especially for those who are in the technology industry, even if you have technology, there may not be anyone willing to do business with you. The most important thing is to have a reputation. Otherwise, in this huge technology industry, all you can do is watch the big guys from the tech companies eat the meat while you drink some soup. Thinking about it, Zhang Chen subconsciously felt as if his brain was about to split apart. It's over, it's over. Looks like I need to grow my brain again. At such a good time, the most important thing is to ensure that you get enough sleep so that you can better repair your brain. Sleep. Only when you have a good rest can you work better. The atmosphere on Zhang Chen's side was comfortable and carefree as no one disturbed him. But after the Dragon Science Institute received the rockets shipped by Zhang Chen's company, especially since everyone knows that the rocket was the one that was recovered 2 days ago, the whole hospital was in an uproar and excitement. I can't sleep at all. The rocket is parked in a large experimental area inside the aerospace laboratory. This noon, the senior researcher in the institute took a few quick bites of food and ran over. Is this the legendary liquid nitrogen and methane powered rocket? It looks like it's about 60 meters long. Listening to the sighs coming from my ears, Mr. Wang smiled. As the first person to know about the incident and one of the few people on the scene who knew about it, he felt strangely proud. Of course, it's more than 60 meters. In addition to this domineering appearance, its various functions will be revealed and will refresh your understanding of rockets. I'll go. It was precisely because he had witnessed the power of this rocket that he was extremely excited. I couldn't hold back my hands and kept rubbing them. Facing the rocket, Mr. Chen was also nervous. A pair of trembling hands tried to touch the rocket, but when they were about to touch it, they stopped in mid-air. The others listened to Mr. Wang's words. He also looked at the high-tech rocket in front of him with excitement and examined it carefully. Knowing that there was a cold and high-tech rocket in front of him, if it were a human, they probably wouldn't be able to withstand the eager gazes of these people. Pa pa pa. There was applause from behind. But everyone's attention was attracted by the rocket and they were reluctant to turn away. Looking at this group of scientific research lunatics, Su Zheng shook his head helplessly. A thought came to my mind, and I said to myself, what? You want to continue watching here? Don't you want to study it in depth? As soon as the words fell, as Su Zheng expected, everyone suddenly turned their eyes around, their faces filled with excitement. Dean, do you mean that we can study this treasure? There was a sense of urgency in the researcher's voice as he spoke, waiting only for Su Zheng's order. He wished he could throw himself forward. Other researchers, he also looked at Su Zheng, eager to get a positive answer. Su Zheng looked around and did not respond to these people's requests. He asked back, I'm really thinking of holding a seminar with you guys on the rocket research resolution. When the time comes, we can vote or raise our watches. I agree. I agree. I agree now. Dean, give the order quickly. We should save as much time as possible on those unnecessary procedures. Our most important thing now is to study this rocket. That is. Looking at the researchers in front of him, each one more impulsive than the other, Su Zheng felt a little confused. Are these still the researchers who always say be rigorous? Don't be impetuous. Why do they seem to have broken some seal? They look like a bunch of ruffians. Certainly, Su Zheng did not say this directly, but just thought about it from the bottom of his heart. He was worried that if he spoke out, he would be beaten up. Although he thought he was a good speaker, he had not yet reached the level of being able to debate with a group of scholars. In addition to his own opinions, he also hopes to get all the research data about this rocket as soon as possible. The sooner the better. Finally, after their unanimous decision, the resolution to dismantle the rocket and conduct detailed analysis and research was passed on the spot. An hour passed. The people who were originally full of enthusiasm felt like they were being poured a bucket of cold water when they saw the research in front of them had made no progress at all. I couldn't help but frown. Dean, are we doing this from the wrong angle? If it were correct, we would have been able to dismantle at least 1 out of 10 by now, right? Now, seeing that the disassembly progress is not even as good as the tip of the iceberg, the self-proclaimed excellent scientific researchers can't help but feel puzzled. How about our analysis team conduct an in-depth analysis of it first? Then we can clear the way for everyone. In the crowd, I couldn't tell where the voice came from. Although this sentence may sound like a retreat in the face of difficulties, but now, fear is the only way. That's fine. I think this is the only way at the moment. Mr. Chen nodded. Yes, it is possible that we are too eager to obtain relevant data on key technologies and neglect to conduct down-to-earth research and analysis. After all, there is nothing in this world that can reach heaven in just one step. Scientists have redefined their research directions. Decided to take it one step at a time and study slowly. Su Zheng stood in front of the expert group's table, pacing back and forth. It stands to reason that he didn't have to follow up the whole process. But this matter is of no small importance. If it finally succeeds, that would be 100 benefits to Dragon Country with no harm at all. To say that Dragon Country can leapfrog to the top of Blue Star is an understatement. It's been a long time since I waited. He watched the sky outside the window gradually darken. I don't know when the originally orange-red sky changed to blue-black. Su Zheng raised his wrist to check the time. I couldn't help but mutter, why isn't it healed yet? Although the sound is not loud, it is not a big deal for a research room with only the rustling sound of writing. It is enough for everyone to hear this. He looked up at the dean, but no one responded to him, so he turned around and buried himself in his research and analysis again. How's your research team's analysis going? Dean, give us another 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, we will be able to get the relevant analysis results. Once these words came out, everyone at the scene breathed a sigh of relief. Great, 3 more minutes. 10, 9, 8, 7. I don't know who started counting down. For a moment, others also subconsciously shouted out. What they least expected was that their hearts began to beat rapidly. Until the person being watched raised the document in his hand and said, "It's out." Chapter 42. The moment the sound landed, whoosh. The people who were resting and waiting for the result suddenly rushed over. The light in the eyes did not disappear with time, on the contrary, it is particularly dazzling at this moment. Liquid nitrogen and methane energy supply, vector thrusters, recyclable technology. In addition to the design and manufacture of these rockets, related traceless laser nozzle welding technology and engine pump backswing technology are also used. High-precision high-pressure low-temperature regulator and low-temperature spring energy storage dynamic sealing technology. The analyst in front of him kept spouting professional terms. Each technology is enough to shatter their cognition. These research experts stared at each other in amazement. If they had been 100% confident in disassembling and analyzing these rockets at the beginning, now, after the analysts have announced the results, their 100% confidence was completely wiped out at this moment. Each of these technologies is still in our theoretical writing. But now that these rockets are in front of us, does that mean that all these technologies have been? The following words were not finished. But everyone present knew what he wanted to say. I opened my mouth again and again, but no words came out. The originally noisy and enthusiastic scene suddenly became silent. Until a self-mocking voice sounded faintly, everyone. Almost everyone. Every technology is something we don't have at the moment. If we were to research these ourselves, I'm afraid, it will probably take at least 10 years to find its edge. At this time, Mr. Chen continued the man's words. When he raised his eyes again, the eagerness he had at the beginning was completely gone. The depressing atmosphere did not last long. Some people can't control their own hearts. So, Dean, which country did you buy these rockets from? Is it possible? Can we ask you? One of the researchers saw that Su Zheng, Wang Lao and Chen Lao were silent. This is when he asked the question tentatively. The others closed their mouths nervously and looked at Su Zheng. Seeing that Su Zheng did not respond immediately, he could not help but guess. Could it be Eagle Chan? In their subconscious, Eagle Country has always been the country with the fastest technological development on Blue Star, followed by Bear Country. Although their Dragon Kingdom showed signs of rising in the later period, it still had many shortcomings compared to the latter. These rockets include the one launched previously from Pengcheng University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. They were all made by a young comrade from our Dragon Country. Once these words came out, the scene was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. The next second, after the researchers reacted, a thunderous sound erupted directly at the research laboratory. Oh my god! Is it true? Is it really made by our Dragon Country? The first one is a technology that is currently out of their reach. If Su Zheng's words were not credible, they couldn't believe it was done by a Chinese even if they were beaten to death. Especially after the analysis results come out, the rocket contains the sophistication of science and technology. Even if they have been engaged in scientific research for decades, it would not be possible to fully master it overnight. Originally, when we knew the result and guessed it was foreign technology, their hearts were already half sunk. Whether in the past or now, strength is always a country's voice. The dragon people know better than anyone that those who lag behind will be beaten, without anyone teaching them. Now that they know the technology belongs to Longguo, they are more excited than if they had mastered it themselves. In that case, such a talented comrade should be brought back to our Dragon Academy at any cost. That's right. We are all willing to serve him when the time comes. I am willing to help him. This kind of thing must not be delayed any longer, the sooner the better. The young researcher sitting in the corner next to Ji-Yun said seriously, as far as I know, the Eagle Sauce has already started their next move. The goal is to establish a link with the blue planet in the interstellar space, and finally achieve the ultimate goal of Eagle Sauce's dominance. Damn! How many years have passed? Their ambition to dominate Blue Star is still alive. That's true, but the most important issue right now is that the young comrade is unwilling to join our Long Academy. Suddenly, old Chen opened the dry tobacco he had saved in his hand, lit it, put it to his lips and took a deep puff. He exhaled a smoke ring and shook his head. Upon hearing this, Mr. Wang and Su Zheng on the side also nodded. There must be a way to persuade him, right? If that doesn't work, we can just use force. The researcher, who looked a bit rough in appearance, received a glare from the dean before he could finish his words. Silence ensued. He dodged backward. Then I heard, since we can't invite him to join our Dragon Academy, is it okay to hire him as a mentor? One of the scientists nodded thoughtfully and expressed his opinion frankly. Upon hearing this, Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen and Su Zheng himself could not help but brighten up their eyes. They exchanged a knowing look. Maybe this is actually a feasible solution. After all, Zhang Chen is also a dragon countryman, so he can change the way of invitation. Maybe, relatively speaking, he would be more willing to accept it. Recalling what Zhang Chen said in the office at that time, Su Zheng nodded. What this kid is most worried about is that he will lose the freedom to do research after entering the Dragon Science Institute. Hiring him as a mentor will solve this problem. Mr. Wang smiled and sighed, if people outside knew that our prestigious Long Institute was hiring tutors from the society, we would lose face. How much is face worth? As long as my Dragon Nation can be proud of itself on Blue Star, none of this matters. Boss Chen waved his hand. Just watching these three people talking to each other, the researchers became even more curious about this comrade who had never heard of rocket manufacturing. If the two big guys and the dean hadn't kept their mouths shut, they wouldn't even reveal the other party's name. He left a message saying don't worry, let them take care of it and left. The researchers wanted to rush to Zhang Chen right now, and give him an ideological education lesson even if it took a lot of effort. After Su Zheng and the other two left the laboratory, everyone couldn't help but speculate. You think this guy is a scientist who hid himself in the early days of scientific research? When these words came out, everyone was shocked. If I am lucky enough to meet such a person in this life, I dare not even think about it. By the way, Ji Yun, a few days ago, you were called to the watchtower. Was there any mission? In the corner, Ji Yun, the only one who knew some inside information, had tried his best to reduce his presence without the dean's permission. I just didn't expect it, but it was still noticed. Chapter 43. Downstairs of the office building in Pengcheng North District. Lu Yuanhang and his assistant Xia Shui were holding a blueprint in their hands. He put his hands on his hips and pounded his legs, looking at the building in front of him. Is this the last one? Lu Yuanhang bent over and looked carefully. His legs were trembling slightly. Xia Shui beside him lowered her eyes and looked at him. Yes, it's here, but it's already time to get off work. Can't we come back tomorrow to discuss the acquisition? How can that be possible? We must finish today's work today. It will be useless to put it off until tomorrow. Besides, we have other tasks tomorrow. Lu Yuanhang taught in a deep voice. Watching those senior white-collar workers leaving the office building one by one with their bags on their backs. But thinking about the fact that I still have to work overtime with my boss until the end, Xia Shui felt bitter. For a while, I had no place to vent my anger. I couldn't help but complain, boss, I suggested that you arrange for someone else to perform the task, but you insisted on doing it yourself. Now I have to suffer along with him. Of course, Xia Shui did not say this last sentence directly, otherwise, I was afraid I would lose my job on the spot. He sighed, unfolded the blueprint he was drawing, and looked around. This should be a small company. Boss, are you sure it's worthy of your attention? I heard that the original boss of this company left due to an accident, and the one taking over now is his son, who is at most a young boy. Xia Shui took out a pen from her bag. He bit the pen cap lightly with his mouth, exerted force with his hand, and pulled the pen out. He raised his hand and was about to cross out the last word Jianglin Technology Company. Then I heard Lu Yuanhang's voice of stopping me. It is precisely because of this that I should acquire that small company. After all, I know young people nowadays too well. They all have their own desired lives and don't want to inherit their parents' property. Doing this might help the young man find his freedom. Lu Yuanhang finished speaking. After looking at the location marked above, he raised his foot and walked into the hall. I took the elevator and arrived at the door of Jianglin Technology Company. The first thing that catches your eye is the sign that gives you a full sense of technology. The 4 characters Jianglin Technology, it was like the brightest thing in the night, and it immediately attracted Lu Yuanhang's attention. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Xia Shui who had just caught up with him in high heels. That's great. Keep a note of it. When we get back, arrange for those branches of our Yuanhang group as well. Xia Shui twitched her mouth helplessly. I couldn't help but complain in my heart, is the boss okay? Did he forget that we came here to acquire a company, not to study abroad? Yes, I'll write it down now. The smile on Xia Shui's face seemed a little stiff. Even though she was extremely dissatisfied with his request, she couldn't show it directly on her face, so she simply nodded in agreement. Just when I raised my head and looked at the small company in front of me again. Apart from the company nameplate outside, it is as simple as a shelter. This made her consider the pros and cons of acquiring it. Boss, this company, is it a dead end? It looks like a shell company. Don't let it hinder our overall technology plan after the acquisition. Although Xia Shui seems a little squeamish on weekdays, she always has her own unique opinions and views at critical moments. Lu Yuanhang looked around after hearing the voice. It shouldn't be the case. After all, it is a technology company that has a place here. Although the owner of the power has changed, the genes are still there. Boom boom boom. Xia Shui put away her pen and blueprints, strode to the door and knocked. Zhang Chen, who had just woken up and was about to pour a glass of water in the tea room, turned around and walked towards the entrance. After opening the door, in a trance, he seemed to see the strange woman who gave up her seat for 600 yuan at the special Yanmian noodle restaurant at noon. He whispered, "Am I still dreaming? Why do I seem to have seen that weirdo?" He rubbed his eyes again and looked over again. The man in front of him suddenly looked gloomy. Zhang Chen could fully feel the low pressure emanating from this person, and his body shuddered subconsciously. He took a step back awkwardly and scratched his head. "Hey, what a coincidence. Are you an employee of Jianglin Technology Company? I think there is really no one in this small company. They actually hired someone like you who is obsessed with money to work here, and they are not afraid of problems." Xia Shui crossed her arms across her chest. Her professional attire, which was originally very slim-fitting, was squeezed by her movement, and the neckline on her chest seemed like it would burst open in the next second. Although Zhang Chen is not a successful person now, he was once a talented student in science and technology research at Lonk University. This girl actually said this about herself. "Girl, please be gentle with your words. No matter how much you dislike me, you can't make personal attacks on me. Besides, what happened at noon was consensual. I didn't force you." As Zhang Chen spoke, he stretched lazily and leaned against the door frame. He lowered his eyes and looked at Xia Shui, wondering what he was thinking. But Xia Shui's face instantly turned red after hearing what he said. Somewhat angrily, UBD. Call your boss out." "Oh? You still want to call us boss, then where is your boss?" Xia Shui subconsciously turned her head and looked at Lu Yunhang behind her. The latter was just watching the show in front of him leisurely. Lu Yunhang himself did not expect that the conversation between the two young people would bring up himself. Thinking that he was still in the mood of watching a show, he couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed. He raised his hand and touched the tip of his nose to hide his guilty conscience. He took out his gilded business card and handed it to Zhang Chen. He said in a deep voice, "I am Lu Yunhang, the boss of Yunhang Group. I want to meet the boss of your company. Comrade, can you give way?" Zhang Chen lowered his head and looked at the business card. It certainly doesn't look fake. He stepped aside to make way for her. "You come in first." After Lu Yunhang went in, Xia Shui followed behind, but before she could take a step, Zhang Chen got there first. He said, "Remember to close the door," and walked in. Xia Shui was stunned for a while, then after she reacted, she stomped her foot hard. Lu Yunhang and Xia Shui sat on the sofa. They didn't expect Zhang Chen to sit opposite them right after. "What are you doing here? You can tell me now. Do you want to place an order? Or do you plan to cooperate for a long time?" "You." Xia Shui said with a hint of sarcasm in her smile, "We are going to discuss a big matter, you can't do it." "Oh? I'm the boss of this company, why not?" Chapter 44. What did I do wrong to make you so prejudiced against me? Zhang Chen said these words with a smile, but the two people opposite him inexplicably felt an unprecedented pressure. Even the person opposite is just a child who looks not very old. When I think of how Xia Shui had just complained in front of others, let alone Xia Shui herself, even Lu Yunhang, who had been in business for nearly 30 years, wished he could dig a crack in the ground and crawl into it. But in the current situation, I have to step in to mediate the awkward atmosphere. "What's your name, young comrade?" "My last name is Zhang." Looking at the nonchalant expression on Zhang Chen's face, Lu Yunhang seemed to see at this moment the look of the daughter who was unwilling to inherit the family property. Thinking like this, he felt that the probability of his successful acquisition of Jianglin Technology Company had increased a lot. I couldn't help but sit up straighter. "Okay, Mr. Zhang, I know young people don't like those roundabout ways of doing business, so I won't beat around the bush with you." He raised his hand and signaled to Xia Shui beside him. The latter is still immersed in his own emotions and has not completely gotten out of them. He looked at Lu Yunhang in confusion. Later I reacted, he hurriedly took out the acquisition documents from his bag and pushed them in front of Zhang Chen. It must be said that when Zhang Chen saw the few big words on the document, his face darkened. It's just that the other party was only focused on the acquisition, so they didn't notice this point. Lu Yunhang, in particular, spoke even more excitedly. From his plan to acquire all the technology companies in Pengcheng North District Office Building to realizing the grand ambition of Pengcheng Technology Line. All that's missing is a podium and a microphone in front of him. The short hand of the clock on the wall completed a circle. Zhang Chen almost lost his patience and raised his hand and yawned. "Mr. Lu, are you finished? If you are, please leave immediately. I have no intention of selling the company." Once these words came out, Lu Yunhang and Xia Shui were both silent. Especially Xia Shui, before coming here, she had conducted a comprehensive investigation of all small technology companies. Among them, the one she was least optimistic about was Jianglin Technology Company. It is also speculated that this company must have been the one with the smoothest acquisition process. But she obviously did not expect such a result. She retorted subconsciously. "Are you sure? According to my investigation, your small company currently only has you and a small assistant. How long can such a team last? Besides, the rent here is not cheap, right? You are just a young man in your 20s. You have a lot of time ahead of you. There is no need to lock yourself up in this small office building and waste your youth." Xia Shui's mouth moved swiftly. It must be said that if this happened before Zhang Chen awakened his system, there might be a 40% chance that he would be tempted. But now, not only did he not think so, but he felt that he could make Jianglin Technology Company bigger and stronger. How can this be considered a waste of youth? It's just another way for me to realize my dream. Besides, My father and mother's unfulfilled wishes will definitely come true as long as I am here. You guys go away, there's no need to waste your energy. I won't sell it. In a trance, Lu Yuanhang looked at the young face in front of him and couldn't help feeling touched. Thinking back to the night before last, my own daughter looked as if she wished she could stay away from her parents. I can't help but feel emotional. It would be great if Xiao could have this kind of realization someday. What if we increase the price? How much will you be willing to sell this company to us? Xia Shui frowned and couldn't help feeling a little anxious. At this time, Zhang Chen on the opposite side raised 5 fingers, but before he could speak, she exclaimed, 5 million? Or 50 million? You may not be that old, but you have a very dark heart really. There are many people in this world, but most of them are pursuing fame and fortune. The admiration in Lu Yuanhang's eyes dimmed a little, and his heart sank. Zhang Chen frowned after hearing what the other party said, and then looked at his palm. I just want you to stop talking. I won't sell it to you even if you ask me for more money. 01, see you off. Yes. Mr. Zhang. When Lu Yuanhang and Xia Shui were not prepared at all, a figure flashed in front of him, and suddenly a girl dressed as an assistant appeared, so exquisite that it was impossible to ignore her. With a professional smile on her face, she raised her hand to show the way to the two of them. You two, please. Lu Yuanhang and the other person stood up and stopped when they were about to walk out. Boss Zhang, I have to say that I admire your temper and ambition, but the business world is full of changes, and you won't understand it when you first enter it. But please leave me your business card. If there is any cooperation in the future, I would be willing to help you. Boss. Xia Shui had worked in Lu Yuanhang Group for many years, so how could she not guess the significance of this sentence? It's just that she thought the boy in front of her didn't deserve such an opportunity. Business cards? Sorry, the only ones in the company are my parents. I've even printed mine out. Once these words came out, Xia Shui turned her head suddenly, unable to conceal the surprise in her eyes. Can this boy speak? Aren't his parents already a Euro? Then what's the point of them asking for a business card? Walking out of the office building, Lu Yuanhang himself was in a trance and shook his head with a helpless smile. This kid is really interesting. Xia Shui, please pay more attention to this place in the future. I'm really curious about how a half-grown boy can run this small technology company. Tisk tisk. The violent braking sound in front caused the two men to look up. The car looked like it had been specially modified. After it stopped, followed by 2 bangs of doors closing. 2 well-dressed men came down. He walked towards them hurriedly. Lu Yuanhang has been working in the business world for many years and has become a shrewd man. He looks at them with shrewd eyes. I never expected that there would be so many technologies that are beyond our reach. Yes, it's so late now. I hope Zhang Chen hasn't left yet, otherwise we won't be able to explain to the dean and everyone else. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen lowered their heads and walked in. They were now focused on getting Zhang Chen to be a mentor at the Dragon Academy, and they didn't even have the energy to pay attention to the passers-by around them. Until the 2 figures completely disappeared around the corner of the hall, Lu Yuanhang turned around slowly, as if thinking about something. These 2 people don't look simple. I don't know who the Zhang Chen they are talking about is. Boss? Our car is here. Xia Shui reminded in a low voice. Lu Yuanhang nodded and walked over. Xia Shui, check that car. Chapter 45. Lu Yuanhang's car had just left. Old Wang and Old Chen walked out with their heads hung. What kind of thing is this? I told you to hurry up. Now Zhang Chen is not here. How are we going to report to everyone when we go back? Is this my fault? If you hadn't insisted on changing into a neat outfit, would we have missed the chance to meet Zhang Chen? Okay, I won't talk to you about this. Let's go back first. Boss Chen waved his hand and got into the car before Boss Wang. Fortunately, when they returned to Long Academy, Su Zheng had sent all the researchers back to rest. Only then did they breathe a sigh of relief. The Eagle Sauce research base at that time. A superior lost his temper in the office. The floor was littered with broken glass and scattered documents. The only document that was considered complete was in his hand. Taran Lu's chest rose and fell violently. Smith is a jerk. Such important news can only be found out after I personally check it out. The information on the document is obtained after translation. The top column reads the Dragon Country rocket was successfully recovered and landed. This was the nth-hand information presentation that he arranged for his staff in Longguo to successfully obtain after a day and night of data collection on the internet. Taran Luo was so angry that he swept his hawk-like eyes over the objects that could be smashed at the scene. Finally it landed on the golden telephone on the right. Raise your hand and sweep it away. My mind suddenly changed. I slowly picked up the receiver and tapped on it with my fingers. Smith. When I get the chance, I will sue you in front of the president. You are a liar. Smith on the opposite side had no idea what was going on. He paused the phonograph, stood up, shook his glass and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Oh, my dear Captain Trenlu, where does this come from? I've been working in strategic information for many years, and this is the first time I've heard such nonsense. The sarcastic voice from the other side made Taran Lu feel annoyed. How dare you say that you have no information about Longguo's rocket recovery? If you have, why don't you report it to us? But if not, then your strategic information department is really derelict in its duty, and you can expect to be court-martialed. Beep beep beep. He was about to explain, the sound of the phone being hung up caught me off guard. You said I failed in my duty, so I failed in my duty? I specialize in strategic information, how could I be wrong? Smith returned to his seat. Open the most central file, a suspected model of Longwo's reusable rocket. I said, even if they were given a few decades, their dragon country's technology might not be able to catch up with our technological frontier. The next morning, Lu Yuanhang had just arrived at his post. Xia Shui rushed in from outside. He looked so flustered that he even forgot to knock on the door. When Lu Yuanhang saw her, he was stunned for a few seconds and said, "What's going on? Don't you know to knock on the door?" "No, boss, look at this." Following Xia Shui's gesture, Lu Yuanhang lowered his head and looked over. On the flat plate, this is a video of a rocket launching and recovering. The video has inspiring music in the background and a narrator's commentary. Originally, Lu Yuanhang didn't think there was anything wrong. But when he heard the words Pengcheng Aerospace University and Practical Class, he was stunned. He raised his head up, after thinking for a long time, then he took out the medal that he had framed on the table. Could this rocket be related to Xiao? Suddenly, a bold imagination comes to mind. He took out his cell phone and made a call. Then, an impatient female voice came from the other side. "Dad, didn't I tell you not to make phone calls when I'm in class?" "Xiao, when is your practical class?" Lu Xia had no idea what her father was thinking. "It's already past. You were in a meeting at the time, so you missed it, right? I'm asking when." Hearing the other party's urgency, Lu Xia did not hesitate and responded subconsciously, August 31 St. Beep beep beep. She opened her mouth, but before she could ask anything, the other party hung up the phone. "Go check where the lady's bank card spending went." Xia Shui hesitated for a second and said, "Yes." 10 minutes later, Lu Yuanhang has already received the result. "Boss, the lady placed a rocket order worth 2 million at Jianglan Technology Company on August 31 St. It is said that the rocket was transported to Pengcheng Aerospace University the next day." Listening to the report from the staff, for a moment, Lu Yuanhang felt like there was something wrong with his ears. "I can't even believe this is true." But when the two were combined, it seemed as if all the rumors on the internet were suddenly sorted out by him. He plopped back into his seat. His eyes slowly turned to the acquisition contract he had placed on the corner of the table. A self-deprecating sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. No wonder he didn't agree to be acquired. If the rumor about the reusable rocket is true, not only will he not have to worry about food and drink for the rest of his life, even his descendants will be safe and sound. Boom boom boom. Enter. Lu Yuanhang threw the acquisition documents into the trash can. "My mind is a little confused, out of control." Xia Shui walked in with her high heels clacking. "Boss, this is the information about the special car I found downstairs in Pengcheng North District last night. Jianglan Technology is not a simple company. Maybe those two people knew the strength of Jianglan Technology and went there to discuss cooperation. Let it go for now. I'll take a look at it later." Lu Yuanhang rubbed his forehead and spoke weakly. But Xia Shui did not leave immediately. Still standing there waiting silently, "Anything else?" Xia Shui pursed her lips. She was also shocked when the small company made a rocket yesterday. But that was nothing. The documents in her hand were the real headache. "Boss, why don't you take a look at this document?" Lu Yuanhang frowned and looked up. "Take the file and open it." The first line of words made him stand up in shock. "Is that the special car of the Long Institute?" A car heading to an office building in the northern district of Pengcheng was speeding on the street. Hurry up, let the people behind catch up, don't fall behind." Lu Yuanhang urged his driver, stepped on the accelerator almost to the bottom, and drove forward at high speed. When he just went out, I don't know where the news leaked. Wang Hua, the head of Huaishan Group, Yuanhang Group's longtime competitor, also knew the news. Even the route is the same as his. "Brother Lu, where are you going in such a hurry?" The rear window of the luxury car that suddenly rushed up slowly lowered. Wang Hua looked over with a smug look on his face. "Tisk tisk, it's time for you to change your car. I won't wait for you and we'll go. First." Chapter 46. The person involved, Zhang Chen, didn't know that someone outside had already started speeding for him. He himself was leisurely leaning back on the newly bought sofa. He tapped the screen of his mobile phone, and after finishing the operation, he stood up suddenly. The mobile phone was casually placed on the table in front of him. Looking out through the one-way window on the side, Wang Peng and others who had just arrived yesterday were very active in their work. Have their relevant positions been arranged? 01 Pause the work in hand, look up and respond, it's all been arranged. Zhang Chen nodded and said nothing more. 01's strength is there, no need to doubt it. Suddenly, 01 seemed to sense something, and a faint blue light flashed in his eyes. "Boss Zhang, there are two powerful forces approaching us. I hope you can be prepared in time." Recalling what happened in the past, Zhang Chen didn't remember his family offending anyone, let alone himself. "I was always cautious in school and never offended anyone." Zhang Chen couldn't think of anything, so he waved his hand and said, "Forget it. No matter who comes, we will fight back." Jianglan Technology Company downstairs, the two convoys stopped one after another. Wang Hua straightened his suit and looked arrogantly at Lu Yuanhang who had just got out of the car. His tone was full of hostility. "I advise Brother Lu not to get involved in this mess today. We at Huaishan Group are determined to win this cooperation." Hearing the sound, the official smile on Lu Yuanhang's face froze, his face turned pale, and his teeth clenched. "I thought to myself that this is not good. The Huaishan Group, headed by Wang Hua, is the strongest competitor of their Yuanhang group in the entire Pengcheng area. Although Lu Yuanhang was so poor that he only had money left, but now, domestic and foreign markets always recognize that technology is the primary productive force. If you want to achieve something in the field of science and technology, technological competitiveness is the biggest advantage. On the other hand, whether in terms of overall technological strength or human resources, Lu Yuanhang believes that neither Yuanhang group nor the other party is a match for him. It can even be said that there is no power to resist at all. But when I think of the technological research and development strength demonstrated by Jianglin Company, my heart is full of resentment. As long as Yuanhang Group can win the cooperation with Jianglin Company this time, it will be just around the corner to surpass Huaishan Group. In this case, even if Yuanhang Group has to risk all its capital today, it will convince Mr. Zhang. Old Wang, before you succeed, don't be so confident. What if you get slapped in the face? It will hurt so much. Besides, whoever Mr. Zhang from Jianglin Company is willing to cooperate with, we can just wait and see. After that, Lu Yuanhang's mouth corners unconsciously raised, and he strode past Wang Hua. His chest lifted unconsciously. So far, he has never failed to get what he wants from Yuanhang Group. Even if he has to spend money, he is determined to compete with Huaishan Group. Lu Yuanhang is not a coward. Wang Hua looked at Lu Yuanhang's back. The smile on his face froze instantly, his expression turned cold. Let's go. Inside an elevator. It was almost split in half at this moment. The air pressure continued to drop. Xia Shuet, who happened to be standing between the two rooms, now wanted to climb up directly along the elevator rope with her bare hands. It's better to be tired than to bear this kind of pressure. Until the elevator arrived at the station with a ding sound. Xia Shui couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Before the door was fully opened, he jumped out. I couldn't help but sigh in a low voice, wow, the air outside is really good. Several eyes fell on me, following everyone's line of sight. Xia Shui raised her hand and knocked on the door. The one who opened the door was Huang Yi. Looking at the crowd of people outside the door, suddenly I felt a strong pressure coming towards me. She used to work in a small shop. When have you ever experienced a scene like this? Being nervous, he couldn't help but stutter, who are you looking for? Wang Hua was about to speak, but Lu Yuanhang, who was a little behind, was not prepared to give him this chance. He squeezed in simply by relying on his size advantage. He put on a smile and tried to make himself look gentle. Miss, we are here to look for Mr. Zhang. Is he in the company? Mr. Zhang? Huang Yi was stunned for a moment, but soon thought of it. Their new boss seems to be named Zhang. Nodded, yes, please come in. A group of people, including Wang Hua, Lu Yuanhang, and Xia Shuat, squeezed in. This makes the space, which originally seemed not small, appear particularly crowded. Wang Peng, Zhao Yais and others in the room, seeing this, I was a little overwhelmed. I had no choice but to stand up, return to my post, and be ready to receive customers at any time. Click. The office door rang, everyone in the room looked over there. Under the embrace of 01, Zhang Chen walked towards this side step by step. He was stunned when he saw Lu Yuanhang. Didn't this uncle just leave last night? Why is he here again? Are you here to acquire my company again? A lot of question marks popped up in my mind. Looking at the people in the room, he felt for the first time that he wanted to expand the company as quickly as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything to say, please sit down and talk. After the words fell, after Lu Yuanhang and Wang Hua sat down with Zhang Chen, the rest of the people, including Xia Shuet, consciously stood behind and beside their boss. The opposing lineups are clearly arranged at a glance. Zhang Chen sat in the middle, his eyes wandering between the two sides for a moment. Inexplicably, I felt that the air had become somewhat tense. I couldn't help wondering if there was something wrong with where I was sitting. Why did I feel like I might get hurt by mistake? Lu Yuanhang lowered his head and thought about what he should say later. As for Wang Hua, he was looking at Zhang Chen. The air suddenly became quiet. Lu Yuanhang wanted to quickly refresh the impression he left on Zhang Chen that he wanted to acquire someone else. First to speak, we were not well prepared to come to your company last night. It was a bit abrupt. Please don't mind, Mr. Zhang. As he spoke, he took the new file from Xia Shui and placed it flat on the table. This is the plan we made for the cooperation between the two companies. I hope Mr. Zhang is willing to give some advice. Once these words came out, not to mention Zhang Chen, even his old rival Wang Hua couldn't help but be stunned. He heard that Lu Yuanhang was going to cooperate with a small company that could develop rockets. I just wanted to interfere and make Lu Yuanhang unhappy. But now, he did not expect that Lu Yuanhang would he is willing to lower himself so low. He shook his head, Brother Lu, why are you going backwards as you grow older? Chapter 47. Lu Yuanhang's words made Zhang Chen feel a little surprised. He even thought that the other party would not give up and wanted to acquire his company. If we can turn it into cooperation according to the other party's words, that would be great. The two people opposite look like CEOs who have been in high positions for a long time. The other one, Zhang Chen didn't know what group or company it was from, but Yuanhang Group, he had looked up relevant information when he was in the office, although their technological strength needs to be improved, they have the market, resources, and funds. In addition, his own small company has not yet had any reputation. If we can cooperate with a big group like them. Just as I was forming an idea in my mind, a bucket of cold water was poured on my head by the person opposite me. There are only 6 people in the company. It's obvious that it was founded not long ago. I'm afraid it's difficult to even run it. No wonder I haven't heard of it before. From the moment I stepped into Jianglan Technology Company to the moment I sat down, Wang Hua observed almost everything about the company inside and out. Think of it now as working hours, but there are only 6 people in his company. I thought that the cooperation that Lu Yuanhang cared about so much must be a big fat sheep. Now it seems, it is really disappointing. I should have known better. I shouldn't have competed with him. A shell company is really not worth Hua Tian's efforts. Wang Hua muttered, although the sound was not loud, it was loud enough for the people closest to him to hear clearly. Among them are Zhang Chen himself, 01 and Lu Yuanhang. The first 2 frowned and looked at Wang Hua. Is this guy okay? Did I force him to come and cooperate with me? Why do you come here to pick on me when you have nothing better to do? Zhang Chen's face looked increasingly cold. Even the look he gave Wang Hua was a little impatient. As for Lu Yuanhang, he couldn't help but feel excited after hearing this. Yes, that's it. Why is Wang Hua so smart today? If I had known he would serve as a foil, I should have let him speak first at the beginning. Especially after seeing Wang Hua say this, Zhang Chen's face suddenly darkened. In this case, the cooperation with Jianglan Technology, isn't that a sure thing? As for Huaishan Group, by the time I realized it, it was already 8 springs too late. By then, wanting to cooperate with others will certainly be harder than climbing to the sky. Thinking, he coughed a few times and frowned, Old Wang, what are you talking about? It's too rude. After all, he is the boss of this company. How can you slander his company in front of his boss? Why are you still here to discuss cooperation? Just go home and have a good rest. Yeah, he's the CEO of Huaishan Group, but his behavior is worse than that of a small employee. His own boss has already started a verbal battle with Wang Hua. If the senior executives from Yuanhang Group don't start to help protest now, I'm afraid the first thing I have to do when I get back is to write a self-criticism. One after another, they began to make insinuations. Wang Hua on the other side looked embarrassed and ashamed. Suddenly, someone on the other side changed the subject. Hey, don't just say that just because Mr. Wang brought a small number of people. After all, in Pengcheng, not all group bosses are as approachable as our CEO Lu. That's right. Huaishan is a big company. It's normal for them to look down on this small company. President Zhang, please don't be surprised. The people from Yuanhang Group were united in purpose and put the Huaishan Group to death with just a few words. Lu Yuanhang was very satisfied with the actions of the senior executives of his group. Quietly give them a thumbs up from behind. After getting the boss's approval, I breathed a sigh of relief. Now they don't have to write a self-apology. Wang Hua looked at the Yuanhang Group's gang members in front of him and wanted to tear their faces apart. He just stepped on him to get to the top. He really couldn't understand why Lu Yuanhang was so good to such a young boy. That's enough. Why didn't I realize before that everyone in your Yuanhang Group is only good at these useless eloquences? I'd like to see what this small company you're interested in can do. Oh. Zhang Chen sneered. There was also a smile in his eyes. It's true that there are only 6 of us in the company, but does that matter? We have nothing to do with shell companies, right? Although Zhao Yais, Huangya and others were standing at their posts, they just heard someone slandering their new company. I wanted to rush up and tear his mouth apart. Now listening to Zhang Chen's rebuttal, he nodded repeatedly. Wang Hua frowned and snorted, can you build a rocket with just a few of you? Of course it was made. Zhang Chen responded without any hesitation. Lu Yuanhang agrees with this statement. Don't mention a few people, even if Zhang Chen is the only one left in their technology company, he can still build a rocket. The rocket his daughter bought is recyclable and powered by liquid nitrogen and methane. After inspection, it was found that it came from Jianglan Technology. And the most shocking thing is not this, that rocket was built in one night. Then, there is only Zhang Chen in this company. When I think of this, Lu Yuanhang couldn't help but sigh at the terrifying strength of Zhang Chen. The look he gave the other person became more serious. Hey, this is really the most ridiculous thing I have heard today. What kind of storm do 6 people want to stir up? The field of science and technology is not something that you can just do by yourself. Wang Hua leaned back and looked at the company and Zhang Chen with contempt in his eyes. Making a rocket, even just a model, requires a complete team and takes nearly a year to complete. Just relying on a few half-grown boys? Can you build rockets? Ha ha ha, I really don't know whether ignorance is innocence or skill makes one bolder. I can't believe how long it takes a company like this to get an order. The senior executives of Huaishan Group sneered, especially after their president Wang came in. He didn't mention anything about cooperation. They understood what Wang Hua meant. He was originally standing straight, but after seeing the current situation, he became a little unfocused. Ding, ding, ding. A series of notification sounds from Zhang Chen's phone interrupted the atmosphere at the scene. However, I was shocked when I took out my phone and looked at it. Zhang Chen found that he had just posted some of the warehouse inventory on Xianyu in the office. It was sold out in an instant. The sudden surprise made him exclaim. Oh my god, what's going on? 01, take Xiao Zhao and the others to check the buyer's information and clear out the inventory in the warehouse as soon as possible. We are ready to replace it at any time. Chapter 48. I slid my fingers across the screen, watching the order information appear before my eyes. Zhang Chen smiled so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. He also began to look at Lu Yuanhang and Wang Hua in a more favorable light. Seeing that Zhang Chen seemed to be in a good mood, Lu Yuanhang also laughed. Just this smile attracted the attention of the other two bosses. Zhang Chen and Wang Hua both looked over at the same time. Brother Lu, you're not going to clear out their inventory just to curry favor with them, are you? If that were true, I would laugh at Yuanhang Group for half my life. The senior executives of Huaishan Group looked at Lu Yuanhang as if they were watching a show. Zhang Chen didn't say anything. He wasn't sure whether it was the other party who placed the order. I can only wait for Lu Yuanhang's answer. At this time, Lu Yuanhang turned around and looked at Xia Shui with an inquiring look. The latter shook his head repeatedly and spread his hands, saying, Boss, this is not what we did. Oh? That's strange, looking at the orders on hand, even the lowest end drones have been bought. Apart from Yuanhang Group, which wants to cooperate with him, who else would buy it? Da-da-da. Zhang Chen's ears moved slightly. I tilted my head slightly, and noticed the door from the corner of my eye. There was a crack in the door, and there were sounds of footsteps coming from outside. At the same time, 01's voice came over. I found out, Mr. Zhang, the order information comes from Long Institute. Raiken? Zhang Chen didn't have time to think about it. Puff. What kind of daydreaming are you doing? Other small companies may not be interested in your technology products, let alone Long Institute. Wow. I really admire your imagination. Yes, although our Huaishan Group cannot be called a top technology group, we have expressed our sincerity to the Long Institute many times, we haven't received any response yet, how could you possibly? How is it impossible? A deep and majestic voice came from the door. Next, two men wearing Zhongshan suits with the exclusive logo of Long Institute on their chests walked in. Two unfriendly eyes swept over everyone at the scene except Zhang Chen. When Wang Hua saw the people from Long Academy, all he could think of was cooperation and getting close to them. There was nothing else, so he stood up and stretched out his hand. The contempt he had for Zhang Chen and his company just now disappeared without a trace in an instant, and his face was full of flattering smiles. Hello, officers from Long Institute. I am Wang Hua, president of Huaishan Group. This is my name. He hadn't finished speaking yet. Old Wang glanced at him sideways and raised his hand to stop him from speaking any further. Huaishan Group. Wang Hua's eyes lit up and he nodded repeatedly, yes, yes, yes. I am. At this time, Mr. Chen also stepped forward with a sneer, how come I haven't heard of it? Sorry, we don't think highly of it. The smile on Wang Hua's face froze instantly. The corners of his mouth began to twitch. My mind went blank and I didn't know how to find a way out. Next, the other party did not give Wang Hua any face. He walked past them and stood in front of Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen is naturally not the kind of person who cannot see the situation clearly. Besides, other people's doing this also helps me out of the predicament to some extent. He stood up quickly. Mr. Wang, Mr. Chen. Comrade Zhang Chen, you are such a busy man. Yesterday, Lao Chen and I came to look for you, but you were not there. Your assistant said you were taking a rest. When facing Zhang Chen, everyone at the scene could see that the old man Wang, who had been so cold and stern in front of Wang Hua a second ago, now stood in front of Zhang Chen. A face that looks as if a flower could bloom. This blatant disparity in treatment is something that anyone with two eyes can see. But everyone is confused, compared with this young Zhang Chen, Wang Hua should definitely be given more attention. But the result was completely different. You two, are you mistaken? My Huaishan Group is definitely bigger than his small company, right? Why do you treat us so differently? Wang Hua said anxiously, unable to bear the disparity in front of him. Humph, we don't like Huatian, a euro do you want to hear the reason? Old Chen turned around and without giving any face, he started killing them indiscriminately. Wait until you can get one person to develop a rocket in one night. After saying that, I was too lazy to look at him again, so I turned my back to him. The most critical thing is that liquid nitrogen and methane are recyclable, so he can't just say it out loud. After all, now is a critical period. As long as Zhang Chen agrees to join the Dragon Academy and serve as a mentor, then all of these will be classified as top state secrets. The fewer people who know about it, the better. The senior executives of Huaishan Group, including Wang Hua, didn't even know how they got out of Jianglan Technology Company. Standing downstairs, staring at the special car. Not long after, when Lu Yuanhang and other people from Yuanhang Group came out, thinking back to the time when he tried so hard to curry favor with Zhang Chen, a nameless fire suddenly rose up in Wang Hua's chest and rushed straight to his brain. Lu Yuanhang. You old fellow, have you known for a long time that this small company has a relationship with Long Institute? He looked down at his hands that were clenching his collar, and the veins on his hands were bulging. Lu Yuanhang smiled. He raised his hand and slapped Wang Hua's hand down. I just found out about this today, and now it seems that my judgment was correct. The impression is refreshed, and then with a little more effort, you can climb to the top. But it's different for you Huaishan. You have offended Mr. Zhang so much that I'm afraid we won't be able to cooperate with each other in the future. Xia Shui, let's go and redraft the contents of the contract. We can't let Xia Zhang down even if we lose ourselves. Bang bang bang. Listening to the sound of car doors closing again and again. Then the fleet sailed away. Wang Hua's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot, and he kicked the trash can beside him. Damn. Lu Yuanhang is a profiteer. Boss, what should we do next? A hint of viciousness flashed across Wang Hua's eyes as he raised his head and looked towards the 18th floor. Go back to the company first. Jianglan Technology. Huang Yu went into the office to serve tea and then left. Then he nodded to his colleague, I remember now, they were the two bosses who received the goods at the door at that time. Phew. That's great. The boss doesn't have to endure the anger of that Lao Deng anymore. When I think about how the boss scolded that Lao Deng just now, I feel so relieved. So are we now considered a national businessman? Several people smiled at each other and looked towards the office together. Thank you two elders for helping Zhang out. Zhang Chen picked up the tea, looked across at the opposite side, and said solemnly. It's a small matter, not worth mentioning. The two looked at each other and exchanged opinions. That look seemed to be saying, if not now, when? Comrade Zhang Chen, we are here this time because we want to discuss something with you. Chapter 49. Zhang Chen stretched out his hand to open the drawer, but stopped, then put it back on the table. Look across seriously. Please speak, both of you. Both Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen were stunned at the same time, and then looked at each other. Remind in a low voice, didn't you say so? What are you waiting for? When did you tell me to speak? Come on. Zhang Chen frowned and looked at the two people pushing each other, feeling a little confused. After the two noticed Zhang Chen's gaze, an awkward smile. It's like this. Our Dragon Science Institute is very interested in the rocket technology you developed. The dean said that you promised that you could come to consult with me at any time. Having said that, Zhang Chen certainly understood what it meant. He nodded, and one hand unconsciously began to touch the drawer under the table. That's true. I said that. Seeing the other party admit it frankly, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Before coming again, if their confidence could be said to be 100%, but when I saw the bosses of big companies in the room, my confidence suffered a big blow. It also made them realize that industry competition exists at all times, and the national team will not always be their umbrella of protection. After the first lesson, they also knew that no matter how much the price was, Zhang Chen would not sell the rocket-related technology. Rocket technology is a priceless treasure in Dragon Country and even in Blue Star. We have discussed this with the dean, and it would be inappropriate to give you any amount of money. As he said this, Wang Lao's hands were hanging by his side, his fingers were slightly curled, and his heart was slightly hanging. But in addition to money, we can grant you free access to the Dragon Academy, as well as military status. Elder Chen, who was standing by, was observing the expression on Zhang Chen's face the whole time Elder Wang was talking. However, Zhang Chen's indifferent reaction made him a little puzzled. After all, if it were someone else, if they had such a good thing, they would have jumped for joy, but that would have been almost the same. But Zhang Chen was very calm. Seeing this, he was afraid that he would return empty-handed again this time, so he stepped forward and added, yes, having a military identity will be beneficial to you in the future. It will be much easier for you to do anything. The air fell silent for a moment. Zhang Chen lowered his head and looked at the object in his hand, playing with it. The drawer under the table in front of me was already open. Although his face looked calm, only he knew that his heart had already been surging with excitement. Military status, such things are hard to come by, and after he agreed, it was not just a green pass for doing things. Behind me, I have an indestructible backer. For him, this is the best of both worlds. There was no immediate response, both Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen panicked, and the smiles on their faces froze. It can be said that neither of them had ever experienced such bitterness, let alone such uncertainty, when they were doing research at the Long Institute. The gaze that was directed at Zhang Chen did not dare to shift even a little. Since the two elders and the dean of the Dragon Academy think so highly of me and have made an exception to grant me military status, I, Zhang Chen, cannot just occupy a position and do nothing. After saying this, the action of playing with the object in his hand also stopped. He stood up and walked solemnly to the opposite side of Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen. We must do something for the Long Institute to be worthy of its trust. Spreading out his hand, a small metal USB flash drive lay in the palm of Zhang Chen's hand. The latter was somewhat puzzled. What is this? Aren't you interested in the core technology of rockets? Here is all the technical information I compiled. The password is 6/8. Once you open it, you can view it at will. After the words fell, Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen were so frightened that they almost stumbled on the spot. They supported each other and managed to keep their balance. After I stabilized my body, I felt my brain was lacking oxygen. Happiness comes a little too suddenly, doesn't it? Lao Chen, pinch me quickly, am I dreaming? Elder Chen was not polite at all, and stretched out his hand to attack Elder Wang's arm. Don't embarrass yourself here. He gritted his teeth to remind himself, then twisted it hard. A howling sound came from the office. The 5 people outside, including 01, subconsciously turned around and looked over. But he soon immersed himself in his work and didn't pay too much attention to it. When Mr. Wang came to his senses, he didn't care about the pain in his arm, let alone fighting back against Mr. Chen. With a look of surprise and joy, Xiao, Comrade Xiao Zhang, what did you just say? I'm a little old, and my hearing hasn't been very good recently. When he spoke, there was an obvious tremor in Mr. Wang's voice. But his hand did not hesitate at all, and he reached towards the USB drive. Then he picked it up carefully and held it in his palm as if it were a treasure. Zhang Chen smiled and opened his mouth to explain again, but old Chen stepped forward and looked at Zhang Chen with a more loving look. Don't bother with him, his ears are fine, but he's a bit weak. After saying this, Mr. Chen took the USB flash drive from Mr. Wang's hand and carefully put it into his briefcase. Before Mr. Wang could find Mr. Chen to argue, Mr. Chen continued, Comrade Zhang Chen, On behalf of all members of the Dragon Academy, I thank you. I will bring this technology back to the Dragon Academy and take it to the headquarters for research and analysis. Besides that, I have another application. Speaking of this, even Mr. Wang became serious. The largest compartment of the briefcase was opened. Mr. Chen took out a document from it. He solemnly handed it to Zhang Chen, and at the same time stretched out his hand. I hope you are willing to become our Dragon Academy's specially invited tutor. Enjoy the status of a core member of the Dragon Academy headquarters and receive the highest treatment. In addition, you also have absolute information rights. You can view the contents and information of the Dragon Science Institute's internal top-secret scientific research documents at any time. After hearing this series of words, Zhang Chen felt that he still knew too little about the Dragon Academy of Sciences. At least, he only knew about the Dragon Academy of Sciences as a researcher. I was unable to react for a moment and my mind was a little confused. Mr. Wang naturally saw his confusion and explained beside him, absolute information rights, you can view more than 90% of the information inside the Dragon Science Institute. This is a treatment only the top members of the core team of the Dragon Science Institute have. Even Lao Chen and I don't have this qualification. When saying this, Elder Wang and Elder Chen looked at Zhang Chen with envy. They envied this young man. He was specially invited to enter the Dragon Science Institute. They had worked in the Dragon Science Institute for decades but had never received such treatment, but Zhang Chen got it easily. However, they understood the sophistication of liquid nitrogen and methane recyclable rocket technology, so they were only envious of Zhang Chen. Zhang Chen reacted, smiled and shook Chen Liadun's hand in the air. Chapter 50. After listening to what the two said, Zhang Chen finally reacted. Because of the rocket he made, the Long Institute gave him such military identity and status. Especially the fact that one can enter Long Academy at any time and consult most of the scientific research materials in Long Academy, which deeply touched Zhang Chen. After all, he still had Jianglin technology to operate, and the technology he occasionally developed from the space at that time could never be approved like normal scientific research. If you stay in Long Institute, the above 2 points cannot be fully achieved. Thinking like this, the conditions they offer now are tailor-made for him. With his other hand, he took the document handed over by Mr. Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Mr. Wang. Accustomed to being rejected by Zhang Chen, now that he suddenly accepted the invitation from Long Academy, both Elder Wang and Elder Chen, looking at the scene in front of me, I felt vaguely dazed. But soon I realized, what Long Academy pays most attention to is talent. At no time should we let the warriors who forge swords for the country feel disheartened. Thinking of this, Old Chen shook Zhang Chen's hand vigorously. A flush of excitement appeared on his face. Welcome, Comrade Zhang Chen. From today on, you will be a member of the core members of our Dragon Academy. That's right. Although he is not yet a first-level researcher, he is already one step away from being a second-level researcher. Congratulations, Comrade Zhang Chen. Elder Wang stepped forward and patted Zhang Chen on the shoulder, his face full of satisfaction. I also breathed a sigh of relief. I can finally explain this to the dean and everyone else, otherwise I will have sleepless nights again. Second-level researcher, when Zhang Chen heard this name, he was stunned for a while. In Longguo Dragon Science Academy, researchers are divided into 4 levels. The 4 levels of destiny all have relevant threshold requirements. The evaluation criteria will also include relevant assessments from 4 aspects: the researcher's academic research ability, technical application ability, education and training ability, and scientific management ability. For example, the first-level researcher mentioned by the 2 people must at least be an academician who has made outstanding contributions to the scientific and technological development of Longguo. The requirements in all aspects are also the most stringent among the 4 levels. Even for the lowest level 4 researcher, the conditions are quite harsh. Not to mention that I have now become a second-level researcher. I listened to the 2 seniors from the Dragon Science Institute, Old Wang and Old Chen, talking about Comrade Zhang Chen. I feel somewhat uncomfortable. He scratched his head and replied with an embarrassed look, you 2 are my seniors, so just call me Zhang Chen or Xiao Zhang from now on, so that I can feel at ease. Elder Wang and Elder Chen looked at each other excitedly, nodded, and laughed. Ha ha ha, good, good, good. Remember to go back to Long Institute in the next 2 days, enter your personal information, and complete the storage. After leaving these words, Mr. Wang urged Mr. Chen to leave quickly. At first Zhang Chen was a little confused. But after sending them downstairs, I realized, these 2 people are anxious to bring the rocket technology back to the Dragon Science Institute for research. For Zhang Chen, the liquid nitrogen methane rocket technology was a high-tech technology that he exchanged after accumulating enough points to solve the company's crisis. But now, in the eyes of the researchers at Long Institute, it is the grand blueprint of Longguo science and technology. It is the future. After sending Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen away, Zhang Chen was thinking about what he should do next. Ding-a-ling. A ringing sound brought his thoughts back to reality. Looking down, I saw Mr. Peng's name on the phone screen. Hello? Mr. Peng, I have time now. Okay, I'll come find you now. Pengcheng Garrison Area. Zhao Weiguo from the Information Security Department. After receiving the recovered rocket, an emergency meeting was held. The planned military technology competition with the Empire is getting closer. In these 2 days, the soldiers in their military district are ready to fight. Especially after seeing the rocket recover and land smoothly inside the military zone, I was not very confident about the competition originally, but now my confidence has increased to 90%. Commander, Our dragon nation will definitely win this time. A soldier cleaning his gun sat on a stone nearby, with a smile on his face and his silver teeth shining in the sunlight. It seems unusually bright. Zhao Weiguo didn't say anything, but he couldn't hide the smile on his face. He stretched out his hand and turned it over the soldier's head. Be prepared. Even if we have the help of divine soldiers, we must not make any mistakes when demonstrating the strength of our army. Yes. Soldier, and several others with him, after hearing this, he stood up suddenly and shouted loudly. Back to the office, my butt hasn't even sat firmly on the chair yet. The guard rushed in holding a satellite phone. Commander. There's a call from the Strategic Command Headquarters. Hearing the sound, Zhao Weiguo stood up and walked around the desk and strode over. I am Zhao Weiguo, the head of the Information Security Section of the Pengcheng Garrison. Please give me your instructions, superiors. What? The date of the military technology competition is going to be postponed? What's the reason? We are all ready, the rocket is eager to launch again, the trajectory has been planned, I am just waiting to give the Empire a slap in the face and bring honor to the people of Dragon Country. Now you're telling me it's postponed? Certainly, the person on the other end of the phone was the chief leader of the Strategic Command Center, so Zhao Weiguo was just complaining in his mind. Didn't say it. There was silence on the other side for a few seconds, and then a sigh was heard in my ears. I heard that it was a temporary application from the Empire. The military speculated that they must have received some information and went to his Eagle Sauce father to ask for countermeasures. Such a response made Zhao Weiguo frown. The Empire has always been eagerly waiting for the Eagles to come, and it seems that they have not yet received any definite news about the rockets, and they dare not take any risks, so they proposed a delay. He opened his mouth, but for a moment he didn't know how to react. I received the parameters of the rocket you reported to me 2 days ago. If it is used in the competition, the Empire will definitely not be able to cope with it. Even though it has been postponed now, even if they discuss their strategy again, they won't be able to create any trouble in the short term. Yes. Hang up the phone. Zhao Weiguo sat in his seat and thought for a long time. Pick up the phone again. Long Institute? I'm Zhao Weiguo from the Information Security Department. Please transfer me to the office of Dean Su Zheng. I'm sorry, the Dean is not here at the moment. Do you want to leave a message, Chief? Zhao Weiguo frowned and looked at the receiver. No need. How come Su Zheng is nowhere to be found at this critical moment? In the office, Zhao Weiguo couldn't sit still, and wandered back and forth, then he stood up and someone, prepare the car. I need to go out for a while. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.